What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Good to see you, gang. Welcome to a Tuesday show. Late in the afternoon, late start, couple minutes. Missed the 3:45 target there. Missed a 3:30 target before that and a couple prior to that. Was hoping to get an early show in. Monster slate to talk through. We got 13 games on deck. Couple big contests out there in the world. Great looking pitching slate. Lot to get into today. Quick hello to everybody in the chat. Andy's here, Monty Pritchett's here, Ducking, Clintwood. With apologies to people who are going to be trickling in over the next few minutes, I am going to kind of dive right into this one because we need to keep a pretty good pace. So we're going to missed it by that much. Yeah, John, exactly. Greg Biancone says 3:30 works fine. 3:30 would have been great. It's 3:50 right now. But we'll do what we can. We're going to try and make good time through this one. I'm going to do the typical setup and knockdown on the run board, the pitching board, and then I might do the game by games at, hopefully, we'll see, a little bit better of a clip, a little bit faster of a clip than usual. I don't want to shortchange anything, but I will try and get through those games so that we can, get out of here within reason at around 6 o'clock. We'll see how it goes. Really, really deep pitching slate. Look at all these usable names up and down. Some at stronger projections, some at kind of mismatched prices for their matchup and their projection, regardless of the high-end quality of the pitcher. 93 for Mizorowski is kind of challenging. A lot of interesting, usable yellow, I would say, on the board. Not necessarily that much green in terms of our conditional formatting here. Down toward the bottom, it does get shaky. I think there's a little bit more ceiling on Bayo against Colorado at 66. That's a really interesting one. Not a lot of trust in a lot of these guys, and some targets down the board there for us, for sure. Really interesting slate. Let's get into some of the run board, highlighted by that monster at the end of the night. I was talking about it in Discord. Join our free Discord. Don't have to be a subscriber to join Discord. It's linked down in the chat. On your way down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button for the channel as we get started here. I was mentioning in the chat, over on RG, and as confirmed by a member in at least one other of the major sites, really starkly, oddly low ownership for both sides of that game. Like, stunningly low. Another place had it with 22% ownership and believable. If it's anywhere near the numbers that RG and apparently this other site have it at, I would be very interested in that game. I'm going to that game anyway. I really love the upside there. A lot of thunder in that game. Two vulnerable pitchers. The wind is blowing out. It's a warm day in Sacramento, and they're playing in that minor league ballpark with two homer-happy teams. So I love the end of the night. I am saving a lot of lineup space for that one. Chalky or not, I'm just going to be there, and I'll get different ways. All the way up at the top of the board, Mariners against the Yanks. Yankees pulling a 4.77 implied total against Logan Gilbert. Kind of a surprise. Will Warren on the bump for the Yankees. 4.33 implied total on the Mariners side of that one. Warm enough day here to believe some offense will occur in Yankee Stadium, and the Yanks can get to anybody, but they're also vulnerable to good pitching. And Logan Gilbert, as much as he's given up a handful of runs in recent starts, is a very, very good starter. So plenty of strikeouts available for Gilbert. I think there's enough to work with him. Will Warren's been excellent for strikeouts. He's had a little bit of troubles last time out, gave up 8 earned runs on 10 hits, made EMAC look a little bad for accepting him in a trade as a big piece from me, but continue to have a ton of faith in Will Warren. The kid is very, very good. A lot of strikeout potential, and there are Ks in that Mariners lineup. So I think both pitchers may be on the board a little bit more than those totals might indicate, and both those offenses are typically always on our board. Marlins at the Reds. That ballpark's going to push offense to anybody. 4.5 implied total on the Marlins side, 4.65 on the Reds side. Definitely an interesting spot for offense. It's Yuri Perez on the mound for the Marlins. He did go 6 in his most recent outing, struck out 7, just 1 hit allowed, no earned runs to a roughly comparable Twins team. I don't think there's all that much discrepancy between the Reds and the Twins. So we could see Jody have a pretty good day here, but the Reds lineup definitely looking appealing. And then Nick Martinez, not that much appeal for on the mound for the Reds, might push us toward a few Marlins bats, depending on how owned they are and how expensive. There is weather, by the way, in that Yankees game. Seems like a lot of rain is going to be moving in between 8:30 and 10 o'clock. So it's going to impact the later part of that game. It'll depend on, what the weather looks like going up to 6, 7 o'clock as far as whether they started. But right now, per Roth, it's going to start dry. So we'll see. Suspended games, not exactly ideal. There's also weather in Boston, but it seems like it's okay. He's got a yellow-green. I wouldn't worry about it. The White Sox and Blue Jays game. Let's do the Rockies and Red Sox, actually, since that's the next up on the board. It's Kyle Freeland going for the Rockies, entirely targetable. He's got Willie Abreu out of the Red Sox lineup again today, despite having success yesterday against a very gettable lefty. Freeland, a little bit better, I would say, but not by much. Very, very targetable spot with the Red Sox pulling a 5, 6, 7 implied total, right mixed in with the other two guys at the end of the night, and a 5+ implied total for the Blue Jays in that rainy game in Chicago. The Rockies side of that one, not that interesting. It's Brian Bayo on the mound. They do have power. They will probably check in fairly low owned with that low total. Rockies on the road against a righty, typically something to target with the pitcher. That said, Bayo, very hit and miss. Pretty low strikeout in a lot of his appearances. Pretty gettable starter. I wouldn't call you crazy for rolling some low owned Rockies here, but I don't love that sub 3.5 implied total. But Fenway, on a warm day, there's enough to like. Shota Imanaga going for the Cubs against Simeon Woods Richardson for the Twins. 4.77 implied total and a ton of firepower in that Cubs lineup. Love the upside for them as hopefully like a mid-board, little bit lower owned than the Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Red Sox, maybe the end of the night game, depending on who's right about that one. Maybe we sneak through with a little bit lower owned than they ought to be Cubs at an interesting total against a very gettable Simeon Woods Richardson. That said, he can be good as well. He's only given up 1 run over 10 innings in his last 2 starts, just 3 earned runs, 4 runs total in the start before that over 6 innings. Just relatively low strikeout most of the time, not that appealing on the mound. And I'm drawn toward Cubs bats today. 4.32 implied total for the Twins against Imanaga. 5 1/3 his last time out. Gave up 3 earned runs. They all came on solo home runs. A little bit of an odd outlier. He had the 3 home run game in the last one, and 5 starts before that he had a 3 home run game. And then other than that, he's only given up a couple all year. Interesting enough starter, but seems like a spot we don't necessarily need to tangle with either, just kind of loosely in the middle of the board. The Dodgers at the Brewers. Really interesting spot with Clay Kershaw on the bump for the Dodgers. Gone 6 in each of his last 2. Was interesting 2 starts ago at Colorado. Was less interesting against the White Sox. Gave up 4 earned runs in a disappointing DFS outing in his most recent performance. Easily good enough to beat the Brewers over 6 here, though. Interesting enough pitcher. Mizurowski is a challenging one, differently priced, as we just saw before across sites. FanDuel has him a little bit cheaper, a little bit more in play, I would say, than DraftKings. DraftKings aggressively high priced. Kid's really, really good. But we were away from him against the Mets in his last start. I was saying that looked like the spot where he would get exposed a little bit just with how good that Mets lineup is. And not patting myself on the back, but he came out, he gave up 5 earned on 5 hits to 19 hitters. He gave up 2 home runs, struck out 2 and walked 3, by far his weakest performance. And now he faces the Dodgers, who are quite a bit better, even with a few players out of the lineup probably, than the Mets. So another rough spot for Mizurowski. Wouldn't surprise me if he had an okay 5 innings, but I don't think they give him much more than that if all goes to plan. Chris Bassett's on the bump for the Blue Jays. Again, there's weather in this one as well. It's Aaron Savali for the White Sox, looking super targetable. That total is very, very interesting for the Blue Jays. They're showing a lot of quality up in that lineup. The weather report in this one is the other yellow-orange spot, though, so just be aware. Russ saying the models have backed it down a little bit, and it's gotten a little bit better looking, but definitely one to come back to as we get closer to the lock and keep an eye on. The other rainy spots are the St. Louis game, which makes sense. And then the Athletics game is not rainy. He's got it as green and highlighted for offense because, again, the weather's warm and the wind are blowing out in that minor league park. So I think we're looking to target some Aaron Savali here with some Blue Jays bats. I think they're going to be popular, but they're easy to fit into a lot of lineups. They're still very affordable, and there is quality, and that's a monster total. And then Chris Bassett, good enough to play against the White Sox for sure. Gives you depth when things are going well. Last time out, just 5 2/3. Only gave up 3 earned, but on 8 hits, struck out 9, walked 3. So the pitch count got up there. Start before that was a meltdown against the Red Sox. 8 earned runs. Problematic start at Fenway Park, but we'll forgive that. 6 innings in 2 straight starts, 7 innings in 2 straight prior to that. Has completed the 6 numerous times. So enough depth. Bad opponent. Seems like a good Chris Bassett day with a little bit of win equity as well. Pirates at the Royals, an 8-run total in that game. It's Mitch Keller on the bump for the Pirates. I think we all know how Mitch goes. You get a lot of good, you get a lot of bad. He's one of those roller coaster starters that we don't fully trust, but we know we can cash tickets with Mitch Keller from time to time. 7 strikeouts, 5 hits, no runs his last time out, over 7 innings against the Cards. Similar-ish kind of a spot. The Royals a little bit lower strikeout, though, so maybe you're looking at 5-6 and change and 5 strikeouts. But good enough to beat that Royals team. They've been scuffling overall for run creation. There's a lot of interesting bats. I would consider some Royals against the downside that Mitch Keller can also give you in that equation, though. On the other side, Seth Lugo, definitely a targetable pitcher, gives you great opportunity at depth. Very, very good at limiting runs. He's been finding some strikeouts lately, too. 7 strikeouts in 2 of the last 4 games, and the other 2 were 8 and 9 strikeouts. So he's been on a roll for Ks. That came against the Rangers, Padres, Dodgers, and Mariners. So definitely an interesting spot going up against the very exploitable Pirates. The Nationals and the Cards. Again, a little bit of weather in this one, but it seems okay. Jake Irvin is on the bump for the Nats. I think we can look to some Cardinals bats. They're just kind of always in the middle of the pack. Even when they have a good run total. 4.81 is an appealing run total. It's a gettable pitcher. There's a lot of spots I like better because that's overall just kind of a mediocre lineup. Sonny Gray's on the mound for the Cards facing that Nationals team. I can see the downside, but he's got them checked down to 3.3 implied runs, one of the best spots of the day per Vegas. He's been in peak form for the most part. Challenging start the last time out, but went 6 1/3. That was against the extremely gettable Pirates. Struck out 6, but gave up 4 earned on 5 hits. Start before that, complete game shutout, 1 hitter, 11 strikeouts against the Guardians. I'm pretty sure we can roll with some Sonny Gray against the Nats. Guardians against the Astros. It's Hunter Brown, top pitcher of the day. He's got the Guardians checked down under 3 implied runs. 2.96 is low. 4.12 implied total for his Astros. Little bit of love for their upside against a very gettable Joey Cantillo on the mound. He's made 1 start. He went 3 1/3 last time out, struck out 5, walked 3, 2 hits, no runs allowed at Wrigley against the Cubs. As I always do that. It would be weird if it was at Wrigley against anybody else. I think 3-4 innings is basically what we're looking at with Cantillo here. I don't think he's that interesting, and we're seeing a little bit of power upside. I almost made Isaac Paredes the home run pick of the day, but then I saw the ownership coming out of that last game, and I had to go that way. But Paredes looks really interesting. I'm kind of intrigued by some affordable Astros bats as just a building block type stack to work with a lot of these other just more obvious teams. Rangers and the Angels. Oh, and the Guardians bats are not off the board, but they're definitely challenged for quality against Hunter Brown. You get to Jose Ramirez and guys like that, though. Evaldi's on the hill for the Rangers going up against the Angels. They have a lot of strikeout in that lineup. They also have a lot of power. They're always at least a little bit worth looking at. 3.96 implied total on the board on a deep slate like this. I'm not sure how much Angels we get. Like Evaldi a lot. Went 5 in his return. Went 3 in the first game back. 3 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. Went 5 last time out against the Orioles. That was his return for the Dynasty team back in the lineup that day. 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, no walk, no runs. Right back to form. He was one of the best pitchers in baseball before he got hurt. Was out for a month and looks right back at it. So would go to Evaldi on this board against that Angel squad. And Jose Soriano's on the mound for the Angels. Interesting enough pitcher. We talked about him last time out. He was facing the Braves. We talked about his quality as far as limiting home run upside, keeping the ball in the yard, and that he had more strikeout stuff from time to time to give. He went out that night. Decent strikeout game, not great, but decent. 7 Ks, walked 2, 3 hits, no runs. Dynamite start over 7 innings against the Braves. Could easily replicate that against the scuffling Rangers team. 4.13 implied total on the Texas side. Last 3 games up, Nick Pivetta is on the mound for the Pods, giving up a lot of premium contact. It's pushing some power in the direction of the Diamondbacks. They're looking interesting despite that 3.56 implied total, just maybe as a really high quality lineup that might be a little bit off the board. That said, they are very expensive, so they don't fit that role of like combining in a sneaky way with, say, the Red Sox or one of the late night teams all that well. But they are interesting. Pivetta has been getting through that contact, though. He's been pitching overall pretty well all season long. A lot of Ks in the mix, a lot of good starts, pitching to pretty low run numbers, too. So he's interesting. And then on the other side, Merrill Kelly, we talked about him going into the last start. He gave up 3 earned runs. He had given up 3 earned runs in the start prior to that, but he struck out 7 in 4 straight starts with an 8 strikeout game starting that charge. Only struck out 3, walked 3 against San Francisco in that last one. So he really let us down DFS-wise that last start. Wasn't a meltdown. 3 earned runs on 5 hits is not tragic. He gave up a home run. He has given up a home run in 4 straight. But I mentioned it last time. I'll say it again. He's been pitching better than I really noticed all season long until just the beginning of July here. But at least we're aware of it. Low strikeout, decent quality Padres opponent. You can see his quality in that 4.02 implied total for them, but I think that checks him kind of lower quality as far as his strikeout upside again this time out. Phillies and the Giants, Taijuan Walker and Robbie Ray. Phillies wish they had Nick Pivetta. Taijuan Walker, definitely exploitable, probably not giving you more than 3 innings. That's what I have him in the model here. No reason to play him. Would consider some Giants bats and their 4.65 implied total against him. Definitely some hard-hitting, interesting players to throw at him and the Phillies bullpen. And then Robbie Ray, a guy we don't trust at all, but definitely been pitching to a ton of quality this year. There's a ton of strikeouts on deck. He came out, and last time out, it was an incredibly Robbie Ray-esque kind of a performance. He made it look good DFS-wise by the end because he pitched a complete game. 3-hitter, 2 earned runs, 2 home runs allowed, struck out 7, walked 1. The walks is what one of the key metrics with Ray. He's been pretty decent for that over his last handful of starts. He has given up earned runs. He has given up a significant number of home runs. That's 6 home runs in his last 4 starts. That's the downside that comes with Robbie Ray and with all those strikeouts. So another roller coaster starter. Against that Phillies team, showing a little bit of power upside, they might be a sneaky, interesting team at a sub-4 implied total as well. But Robbie Ray, I can also see the upside for him pretty clearly. And then we round things out with the pitching matchup in that really appealing late game. Is Dieter Fuentes on the mound for the Braves. He's been clobbered so far in the show. Kid's just 20. He's just kind of here filling spots because all the Braves starters are hurt. So they had nowhere else to turn. But he's definitely here ahead of time. He's a really interesting pitcher. He actually is a high-end prospect. He's got a potentially elite fastball, but it's just not working right. So throwing him into this blender in Sacramento at the end of the night against all that Athletics power, they've got like 5 guys above the magic number tonight in the home run model. I love that spot. And then Jeffrey Springs, who's been pretty gettable all season long for power, for runs, pretty low strikeout all season long, gets to face all those good hitters in the Atlanta lineup. I love their side as well. Game stacks from that game are live. Neither pitcher is interesting. Okay, not too bad on the rundown. Back to the pitching board. Got to remember the clock. Bunch of you guys out there, really appreciate everybody who's here. Hello to everybody who has said hello in the chat. I know a bunch of you have. Steve B is in there. Ducking, Clintwood, Andy, Greg Bean Cone, Cujo's here, Dimitri. Everybody who's out there, appreciate you guys. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you get a chance. The site is rotoscouts.com if you're not familiar with us. Everything is under $1 a day to get access to anything that hits that website. No per sport fees, no nonsense. Check it out. Hunter Brown, top of the board, 10, 8, 11,000, fully priced, but you can see the offset and projection. He has been extremely high quality throughout the entire season. Logan Gilbert, for me, again, the Yankees are projecting it nearly a 5-run implied total, really collides with this in interesting ways because Logan Gilbert is really good, has really good strikeout stuff. He's been a little bit shaky in his limited action so far this year, but the price is right there as if he's been pitching fully well. There are plenty of Ks in that Yankees lineup. It's obviously a high danger spot, but I think that's a fair projection. I think it's got ceiling on it. I really do. Robbie Ray, as mentioned, another really high danger spot at 10-3, 10-5 going up against the hard-hitting Phillies toward the end of the night. very gettable pitcher, but also a potentially elite dominant ace on this slate who can come away with another 10 strikeout game. Sonny Gray against the Nats, very interesting. 96, 97 is entirely fair for Sonny, projecting right in line with Gilbert, with Ray Evaldi right behind him at 94, 10,000. Nick Pivetta, slightly lower projected than those other guys, but right there in that same mix at 99, 98. As mentioned, the Diamondbacks are showing a lot of home run upside against the contact he's given up. We'll get there, but he's looking really interesting even against them. Corbin Carroll back in that lineup now, though, obviously bolsters their upside. I think I lean toward the Diamondbacks with him at that price. Among those guys up at the top of the board, he's probably my least favorite. Chris Bassett, very good spot against the White Sox, especially at that 83 on the DraftKings slate. That's our first really appealing SP2 option. That said, it's a high price SP2, but it's a high price SP2 kind of a day, I think. Merrill Kelly, just a low challenging spot with the low strikeout pods. You can see another little offset in projection on the FanDuel slate. Right in the mix, though, on the DraftKings slate next to Chris Bassett. Will Warren, definitely interesting at 83 on FanDuel. Our first price break on the FanDuel slate, and a very appealing spot for a kid who can find a lot of strikeouts. What I question is, do we get much more than 5 innings if all's going to plan just to get him back on track after that meltdown? I could see them going that route. He could also be impacted by the rain that we know is coming later in that game. So 5 innings, we start getting a little bit of rain, even if he comes out for the 6th. And that's all she wrote for Will Warren, even if the game resumes. So challenge there for the upside, the ceiling that he might otherwise have, but still interesting at price. 8,000 on DraftKings is also fair. Lugo's not mispriced at 97 on FanDuel. That's fine. To throw him at those Pirates, he's good enough to put up a very strong start there. Where it comes into play is against all those other guys at the top of the board who are also at that price. And then the aces of the day a little bit more expensive. So I think he just kind of falls a little bit by the wayside, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if he outperformed at least like this mix of guys in here. Yeah, John Warren might be wearing down. I mean, it's not unfair to say, but they've been pretty conservative with his innings overall. They weren't pushing him all that deep early. So I think there's still quality left there. Where it's going to get really concerning is if they need to rely on him down the stretch, and they're not typically going to do that with a young pitcher. So I definitely expect the Yanks to bring in a few starters at the break. I was mentioning Andrew Heaney yesterday. I don't know if there's a stated one, Monty, but they're definitely going to monitor things as we get into August, September. So enjoy Will Warren while you can for this season, and then monster breakout potential next year. Oh, I think it's going to be both of those guys. Those are the top 2 guys in my mind that the Yankees are going to go get. Not wild about either option necessarily. I love Alcantara if we can get him back on form. Heaney, fine. Wasn't he here a couple years ago? Didn't we already do that dance? Right? Was he 2021? Was he a Yankee? I think we had him, right? First rabbit hole. This is how you get through a show quickly. Yeah, 2021 we had him. Age 30 for the second half. It could be exactly the same. He wasn't any good at all for us. People will lose their minds if that happens. WFAN will be getting calls. What, Andrew Heaney, what are we doing? We did this before. We saw this guy. He sucks. He sucked then. He's going to suck now. Not necessarily wrong. Anyway, Will Warren definitely on the board, but obviously there are some lingering, question marks. Lugo is fairly priced at 88 on DraftKings. That becomes a little bit more interesting than he is on FanDuel at that 97, a little bit more in play, because you could use Lugo in that spot as an alternate SP1 as compared to all those guys up at the top. And now you're getting $1,000 discount from some of those guys, or $800 from some of those guys. So that's really appealing. I think you can go double barrel like mid board with like a Lugo Bassett combo, 88, 83. To target the Pirates and the White Sox with 2, middle of the board type pitchers. I don't think that's nuts, especially with Evaldi not at full innings, like you're not getting a complete game out of Eovaldi. You might get 6, and they should be high quality, but you're not going beyond that. And then Hunter Brown's the real dynamo at the top, but at least you're saving a ton of money. Everybody else has at least some question marks. Robbie Ray with all his downside facing the Phils, Sonny Gray against a good enough Washington lineup, especially up at the top with those interesting bats. The Yanks, obviously a tough opponent. So it's real interesting to consider like an 88-83 pairing, or even like an 88-73 with Jose Soriano. You could use him again as just your strong SP1 from this point of the board. There's not that much daylight between his 15 and change and these 17, 18s. Imanaga at 82,900, definitely good enough to get through that Twins team. Interesting option from the middle of the board. Maybe a little bit more so on the FanDuel slate, given the low price as compared to the 9,000 that just kind of puts him back in range with some of these guys. I like him a little bit better on the blue side. Soriano is interesting on both, but more so on DK at that 73. There's a lot of quality there for 7,300 against that scuffling Rangers lineup. That said, there is still danger in the Rangers lineup, mediocre as they've been through the season. Mitch Keller against KC at 7,400, another pitcher who is in the mix for SP2 shares. Like him a lot less at 8,700. There is a little bit of ceiling on that, 26. He can get out into the mid-30s. Even a 40-point day wouldn't be out of the question if you get to the bonuses. But a really tough spot against a low strikeout Royals team for Mitch Keller to find his success. Clay Kershaw is in the mix, and again, aggressively interesting at 77 on DraftKings because he's been pitching on form and deep into games, 6 innings and change. So good enough to beat the Brewers that are a little bit top heavy. Don't really like the bottom of that lineup much at all, and there's some exploitable hitters down there, and you can get through. He's going to be facing lefty Christian Yelich. He's going to have Jackson Chourio and Hall of Fame talent against an up-and-coming kid. I'll take the Hall of Famer every time. So monster spot for Clay Kershaw on DK, playable on FanDuel at 85. Jody Pettis, high danger spot, but in the mix for cheapo shares. Coming off that good one, there are some Ks in that Reds lineup, but there is a lot of danger showing on the board. We'll get to it in a minute. And then we start this run of like Joey Cantillo for me is pretty much a no against the Astros. He is very, very cheap, but we're probably not getting any more than, max 5 innings. And I don't think we even get 5. That's probably a little high to have him projected, honestly. Mizurowski at 88. Again, like I was saying before, on the board on FanDuel, less so on DK. He's in this mix going up against the Dodgers. Good as he is. Tough spot. This one's the wild card, especially at 66 on DK. You could get a great outing out of Brian Bayo for that price. So he would be and I think he's going to be very popular for it, but he would be an aggressive go-to to get to some of these. Like you're going to see, I think, a lot of Logan Gilbert, a lot of Robbie Ray paired with Brian Bayo, because that's the easiest layup kind of a start at a cheap price today. Going up against the Rockies on the road, he's a righty. He can give you 6 innings of decent quality. Tough one, but that Marlins lineup is pretty weak. I don't love going to Nick Martinez for anything, though. Jake Irvin against the Cards is a pretty hard no with the total they're showing. Savali with the total the Blue Jays are showing. Springs, no down the board. So there's a pretty clear cut line right at Brian Bayo. Anything below Bayo, don't go to. Both these lineups came in the interim from when the show started. Oh, these texts are still coming in. We finished the minor league draft. It was only 5 rounds this year. Right before the show started, I actually sent the group a text saying 5 more rounds, trying to get a chant going. But, yeah, we finished that up, but the chain is still very active. So another day, I'm sure to have like 50 texts to read when we get off this show. For anyone curious, full success with my 4 picks. I took the 4 guys I had targeted, which worked out pretty well. You can't take anybody who doesn't still qualify as of the start of the draft for rookie status. So 130 at-bats or 50 innings pitched, which feels a little bit low on the inning side. Should be like 75, something like that. Jibes a little better with 130 at-bats. Anyway, so I had picks in just the end of the 4th and then 3 picks in the 5th. And we have a rule that you can't trade this season any of these drafted prospects unless they've reached the majors. So for two reasons, I'm in first place and I'm competing. And for that reason, I wanted to take guys who had already reached the majors rather than guys who were, 3 years out prospects like everybody else was doing. So I took Alan Roden, who's back down in AAA, but a very high quality bat who's got potential going forward. I took Mike Burrows from the Pirates, who is pitching very, very well since like mid-May. Kind of snuck past me he's been as good as he's been. Kind of interesting pitcher. I took Denzel Clark, which kind of is a wild card on the skills. Hits the ball really hard. He's got a regular job in playing elite defense for the A's. Defense doesn't count for anything. But I have a feeling he's going to be capable of mashing, and he's also fast. So good blend of power and speed. Kind of interesting. And a bat with upside playing in that ballpark right now. And then last pick I took on the other side of that game, Dieter Fuentes. As I mentioned, he's only 20. He's just here ahead of schedule. He's getting destroyed, but he's a really interesting pitcher, and he was off of everybody's prospect radar. So kind of double dip with that one with somebody already in the show and trade eligible, but also an interesting young prospect. Anywho, Logan Gilbert, 95-96 on the board. I'm going to try my best not to recycle the conversation about all these pitchers, but Gilbert checks in against this Yankees lineup that has a 24.4% strikeout rate for the confirmed version. He's got a 36.8% strikeout rate this year, pitching to a 3.40 ERA, a 2.12 xFIP overall, 5.5% walk rate, 17.7% swinging strike rate. This is why he's up near the top of the board. It's why I'm a little bit skeptical about that 4.78 implied total against the Yankees. For the Yankees are pulling against him. He has given up some premium contact this year, nearly a 4% home run rate, nearly a 10% barrel rate. That's what's working against him. And that's what's colliding with some of these home run model numbers, especially Aaron Judge at 16.92, but he could draw that against anybody. Gilbert could give you some fly balls, which will play well in Yankee Stadium. You're a little bit challenged by the weather here, but he's very much on the board. Would not surprise me at all if he had a blow him away strikeout game and just kind of kept the Yankees off the board here. So a little bit of a diminished enthusiasm for me for the Yankees, even though they grade out okay on the stacks board. 4.78 implied total puts them in the mix, and you're getting to some of those obvious bats. On this side, the Mariners at 4.33. I do think you could throw Will Warren, but he comes in with a 28.7% strikeout rate, 10.3% swinging, an elite 30.4% CSW, good rating by Stuff Plus. Ignore the 5.02 ERA. He's got a 3.30 xFIP. This is why EMAC was interested in trading for him. This is what I was trying to explain to the guys in the league. 45.8% hard hits, 91 miles an hour of exit velocity. There's some obvious growing pains going on, and this Mariners team in this ballpark can definitely exploit those things, but he can also push some Ks against this team. And if he's on form, 5 good innings is definitely in the cards, and then a little bit of wild card upside for anything beyond that. On the Mariners side, JP Crawford, elite at getting on base, creating runs at a 128 clip ahead of 28% above average. Solid slash line for 28 for 35. If you're considering any Mariners at all, put JP Crawford in there and just grab the cheap correlated scoring and fill out shortstop regardless of which site you're on. He is perfectly fine for that. Capable of giving you a little bit more as a lefty bat in this stadium too. A lazy fly ball to right might get out on a day like today. Julio at 52 at 29 on FanDuel. That is a very stark difference from site to site. 11 home runs, 15 stolen bases, just a 141 ISO, but you're throwing him up against a pitcher who's been giving up a lot of premium contact. He's got a 44.9% hard hit, 7.1% barrels, down from elite premium contact numbers over the last couple seasons. That's where his quality's gone, but it's not gone. It just hasn't been here yet, right? So major upside at 29. 52 is more the correct price on DraftKings. There's not really a discount there for this version of Julio. Cal Raleigh at 62.44, you could argue is discounted. He's got 35 home runs on the board already. He's already in the first half had the best catcher season of all time, basically. Pretty ridiculous. Randy Arozarena at 47, 3,000, 14 homers, 15 steals, a 355 on base, 133 WRC plus. Tremendous option in the middle of the lineup for a cheap price, playing in Yankee Stadium. Hits the ball very, very hard at 11.1% barrels, 52% hard hits. Bottom of the lineup, Jorge Polanco, Luke Raley, Dominic Canzone, 3 really interesting hitters. Look at these hard hit rates for these guys. That's a stretch of guys that averages 46%, 46.4. Probably could have done that in my head. Not the 0.4 part. 8.5% barrels, 12.3% barrels, 15.9% barrels. All those guys are interesting mixers at worst. Polanco got out to a really good start. He's cooled a little bit at 253, 306, 449. But you hit this stretch Luke Raley getting on base at a 348 clip. Ignore the batting average. He's really, really interesting. He hits the ball very hard. He's creating runs 15% better than average. Stole some bases last year in addition to hitting 22 home runs. Swiped 11 bags. Canzone, again, good bat on ball. He's only 37-27 just as an outfield filler. And Ben Williamson and Cole Young are mixers at the absolute best down the bottom of the lineup. Sub 300 on base from both those guys. Leadoff spot for the Yankees, Jason Dominguez. Not ideal. 345 on base on the season, though. Can't really quibble with that. I just don't know that it's actually a big part of his game. I think there's a little bit of luck baked into that. 28.2% strikeouts, but does have a very good 10.8% walk rate. Hits for power. Just a 159 ISO, but an 8.6% barrel, 50.6% hard hits. More interesting against righties. He suffers when he plays against lefties as a righty bat, but an interesting way to start this Yankees lineup out when on a day when we've got no Ben Rice in the lineup. Aaron Judge at 66.48 is a monster, 33 home runs on the board, but even Judge, 25% strikeouts. Jason Dominguez striking out 28% of the time, going up against a guy with a 36.8% rate this year. Some things kind of just explain themselves. Cody Bellinger is elite for low strikeout, high walk rate this year, putting great bat on ball, adding to his barrel rates from last few years, putting nearly 10 points of hard hit rate up, 272, 330, 468 on the season, 13 homers, a 122 WRC plus. Priority bat if you're going to the Yankees. Giancarlo Stanton at 3,500, 3,000 has monster power upside against a guy who does allow premium contact, does allow the occasional home run. It's just, is Giancarlo going to connect with anything? 29% strikeout rate on the season. A lot of swing and miss in Giancarlo's game, but when he happens to connect, he tattoos baseballs. Jazzy, 17.8% barrels on the season. Monster number. 15 homers, 10 steals. Missed a little bit of time. Only 247 plate appearances there. 255 ISO, 136 WRC plus. Another quality lefty to throw into the mix if you're going Yankees. Another high priority bat. I would say Judge, Bellinger, Jazz as my top three priorities for this Yankees lineup. Paul Goldschmidt's another interesting hitter. Slumping a little bit over the last month and change down to 284, 344, 428, but remains very high quality overall. Still puts decent bat on ball in the aggregate, has the upside to get back to these kind of numbers in the long term. Low strikeout, medium walk rate keeps him interesting. Austin Wells is low priced at 3,800 for a lefty catcher with a lot of power upside in Yankee Stadium. 13 home runs on the board at 228 ISO this season, just going up against an elite pitcher, and he is a high strikeout player. Anthony Volpe, pretty ugly so far this year, 25% strikeouts. Does hit the ball hard, 10 homers, 10 steals, left a small village on the bases so far, 94 WRC plus, needs to get his shit together. 2,500, 2,100 for Ozzie Peraza. The Yankees are aggressively shopping for somebody to play third base and put Jazzy back at second base. For right now, we get this weird mix of Peraza and DJ and so on and so forth. I greatly prefer when DJ's in the lineup to use as an offensive DFS piece. Ozzie's not really great at that, but he is cheap and fills second base. Logan Gilbert, Yankees bats, Mariners bats, Will Warren, very, very much a four corners game. All right, that was too long on the first game. Marlins and the Reds. No Marlins lineup yet. Reds is already in here. Nick Martinez. I see no reason to play Nick Martinez other than the fact that he's facing the Marlins, and this is a day where the Marlins come in a hitter-friendly park with, honestly, a little bit of quality in this lineup now and a 4.45 implied total. So forgive me, we're going to kind of bypass Nick Martinez and his 17% strikeout rate. Doesn't really walk anybody but a 4+ on the ERA, the xFIP, etc. Jody Perez is the interesting one. 22.6% Ks this year, a lot of walks, 11.8% walks so far, 4.50 ERA and a 4.89 xFIP. Has been decent at limiting hard hits and exit velo in the tiny sample. It's only 5 starts. It's 22 innings coming back. Has induced an 11.9% swinging strike rate despite not putting away hitters. He is getting some swing and miss in there, and you can see the elite mark from Stuff Plus, 117. Kid has all the talent in the world. Missed all of last year. 2 years ago, 91 1/3 over 19 starts, 28.9% Ks, 8+% walks, but a 3.15 ERA, a 4.24 xFIP, and nearly a 16% swinging strike rate, and nearly a 30% CSW. Gave up a lot of premium contact, a lot of power that year. That could bite him against elite upside bats like Ellie de la Cruz. Some Will Benson power, not to call Will Benson an elite upside bat, but he does have a lot of premium contact upside, a lot of power. Austin Hayes has been making great contact this year. This ballpark helps power out quite a bit. So there's a lot of visible downside for Perez, but there's a lot of visible upside against this lineup too. 22% strikeouts for this lineup overall, but that's helped by the two bottom hitters, 12.6 and 15.5. Through the heart of the lineup, all their interesting bats, that's an average 25.8% strikeout rate. So do not sleep on Jody Perez at 6,000 on the DraftKings slate. Again, last time out against the Twins on July 3rd, 6 innings, faced 21 hitters, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 hitter, no runs. Love it. Easy to replicate that today, even in this ballpark, even against this Reds team. That said, the Reds are on the board. I think you could go a little bit back and forth. I think it would probably be like a 1-3 kind of, though. For every 3 Jody Perez shares, you take a share of Reds just as a little hedge. You do have obvious power showing for Ellie, 56, 38, 18 homers, 22 steals, 208 ISO, 125 WRC plus. He's a monster. Easy to pair him with TJ Friedl up at the top at a fair price. He's creating a lot of runs this year, 114 WRC plus, 364 on base. That's where he's getting most of his qualities. Low strikeout, high walk could give Yuri fits in terms of a guy he can't punch out and a guy who eventually draws a walk a couple times. Then it comes down to whether these guys can get any bat on ball. And my answer to that is probably I lean pitcher. I lean toward Perez. So love the upside there, but would mix in, some Matt McClain, 39, very, very cheap at second base, 27 in the middle infield on FanDuel, 9 homers, 12 steals in an otherwise pretty bad season. As we've looked at, he was great a couple years ago in a medium sample. Austin Hayes at 46 is expensive on DraftKings. That's more than I really want to pay for Austin Hayes against this pitcher. But if you go Reds, he's critical. You have to have him. 8 home runs, 276, 315, 538, a 263 ISO, a 126 WRC plus in his 168 chances. Just one of the better bats that's available down here. And then after him, Gavin Lux, medium quality. If you have TJ Friedl, you probably don't need Gavin Lux. They do similar things. They're both light contact guys. They fill spots. So a cheaper Gavin Lux from down here is perfectly fine instead of TJ Friedl. I just don't really want them both. Spencer Steer at 39, 28, up to 10 home runs, a rescued slash line at 254, 310, 409, capable of being a little bit better. That 288 xWOB is really concerning. The 96 WRC plus has no appeal. Not hitting the ball as hard as he has in the past. Not that these numbers were elite, but these numbers are weak. Will Benson, all the bat on ball in the world that you could possibly want for 37 for 26. Major home run upside against Yuri. 7 on the season and 152 chances. He's also striking out 28.3% of the time. Last year, that was 39.7 in a limited sample, 31.3 the year before. Jose Trevino, low strikeout, low walk, medium quality bat on ball. Not the hitter that he's been this season, and he's already started that decline in terms of the slash line. Just 4 home runs and 175 chances. Everything is already coming back down the mountain. I'm not going to have to point out that he's not that hitter for very long because it's going to normalize to who he really is. Noeven Marte's been kind of interesting in over 84 plate appearances, just 38, 3,000. Solid mixer at the bottom of the lineup if you're choosing to target Perez with Reds. On the Marlins side, Xavier Edwards is interesting to throw at Nick Martinez here. 4,000, 2,800. He's slashing 289, 359, 333. He's an elite table setter at the top of the lineup. You get him ahead of a very cheap Jesus Sanchez, 3,800, 3,200 to throw at a weak high contact righty. Love the upside there. Sanchez is barreling the ball 11.6% of his batted ball events. It's right on par, slightly down, honestly, from the last 2 seasons. 45.8% hard hits. Those are great numbers. His strikeouts are down. His walks are up. He's just not really found the consistency basically ever, but he's got a 357 xWOB under the covers. He has been a positive run creator at a 102 WRC plus. Otto Lopez, playable, but not great at shortstop for 37. Prefer him at second base, but I don't love the $3,000 FanDuel price tag. Little bit of a bump from this ballpark in that price. He's been okay, but 96 WRC plus, 9 homers, 9 steals. A really interesting 364 xWOB under the covers. Another guy doesn't really strike out. 13.9% Ks, 8.9% walks. Say what you will about these Marlins, but they have several low strikeout guys. They have several interesting home run hitters. They got some kids that can draw some walks. So I'm kind of intrigued. Agustin Ramirez at catcher for 3,900 in this ballpark against this pitcher on a day where people are going to be spreading out all over, even if they get a little popular for being the Marlins, and he'll be popular within that equation, within that paradigm. But in no way is he going to be popular slate wide. So really a compelling option at 3,900. 11.7% barrels, 48% hard hits, 14 homers, a 233 ISO creating runs, 9% better than average at the start of his career. This is a very, very strong 275 plate appearances from a rookie catcher. Kyle Stowers is only 45, 35. 35 is high. 45 is fair for what he's done all season. 326 plate appearances now. 16 homers, a 231 ISO, a 383 xWOBA, 137 WRC plus, 19% barrels, 52.5% hard hits. Those are utterly elite premium contact numbers if he can manage to keep that up through the second half. And then you hit this stretch of Eric Wagaman, who's a mix and match quality guy. Liam Hicks, who's kind of interesting for the hit tool of a low strikeout, high walk approach down lineup, 274, 365, 420, a 122 WRC plus. I just kind of want Liam Hicks hitting ninth so that I can wrap him around reliably. Connor Norby ought to be hitting where Eric Wagaman is. Norby's got a lot of upside for premium contact, for power. He's hit 5 home runs in 257 chances, just a 117 ISO. Hasn't really cashed in on an 8.8% barrel rate, but it's in there. And then Dane Myers is kind of a mixer. This ought to go Norby 6, Wagaman 7, Myers 8, and then Hicks 9, so that we could use Hicks selfishly to wrap around back to the top. But priority, if you're going to the Marlins, 1, 2, 3. If you just do the 3-man, and we'll get to Stowers in a minute, but that's a $3,900 a piece 3-man. And those are 3 good bats in this situation. You can't tell me they're not. And then if you mix in Stowers, we're at a 4,050. He pushes you up slightly, but then you could go, like Norby at 36 and bring it back down. Then it's 4,000 a piece, 3,960 to stretch to the 5-man. Or you could just go to Otto at 37 for essentially the same price and just go with the top 5. Wagaman's in that mix. He does have a 46% hard hit. I don't want to take him off the board, but he's low quality by comparison even to these other fairly low quality overall players. Cheapo Yuri Perez. Marlins bats. Reds bats. No Nick Martinez. Don't ever tell anybody I put the Marlins up there. If Perez was pitching at home, this would be a monster spot. I just think there's so much upside at that low price for him to come away with a really good spot. Is Warren chalk? WW Fresh, really? Dimitri says, I will say Heaney did win me 10K once. Yeah, look, Heaney's a dude with upside. He's always been a decent strikeout pitcher over the years. He's one of those roller coasters, for sure. It's just, I would say the same thing if the Yanks were going out and trading for Yusei Kikuchi. Like, all right, lefty, you can find some Ks, but man, this is going to be interesting. Speaking of interesting, Rockies, 346 implied total. Red Sox, 567 implied total. One of these things not quite like the other. We're getting this Red Sox righty against the lefty, righty-heavy lineup again. Nate Eaton up at the top, Romy Gonzalez, Rob Refsnyder, Sedan Rafaela moving up the lineup a little bit. Jaron Duran in the 7 spot. That's where they had Willie Abreu last night. I mentioned earlier in the show, they've just been kind of platooning a little bit when they face all these lefties. It's just been a run of lefties over the last week for the Red Sox to be facing. So we're seeing a lot of this lineup. They're really good when they face a lefty, and this is a lefty with a 16.3% strikeout, just a 5.3% walk, 5.49 ERA, but a 4.04 xFIP for Kyle Freeland. Doesn't strike many hitters out. Does have a 9.8% swinging strike rate though, so he can induce whiffs. He can find a punch out if he needs one. 8.6% barrels on a 10.2 degree average launch, 42.8% hard hits, 90 miles an hour of exit velo, but just a 2.40% home run rate. Kyle Freeland is a little bit better than what we saw yesterday. Not that he's keeping the Red Sox off the board in any way. Not that that means we want to go to Kyle Freeland for $5,000, for $7,400. Last time out, he did go 6. That was against the Astros at Coors Field. 6 innings of 3-run ball, 6 hits, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. Start before that at Milwaukee, got tattooed, 6 earned runs on 8 hits over 4 innings, 2 strikeouts, 3 walks, and a home run allowed. 7 hits, 3 runs on and that's another home start. 6 1/3 of 2-run but no earned run ball against Miami in Miami. 4 strikeouts and a walk. As somebody just mentioned, that ballpark does help pitchers. Here's a reasonable comp. At the Mets, 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, 2 home runs allowed, so a little bit of oddball output. Not a total disaster. So I think my point overall is it wouldn't completely stun me if Kyle Freeland came out and kept the Red Sox to just 4-5, something like that, instead of a monster 8-10 run game. Bayo's really interesting. Last time out, 5 innings, 2 starts before that, 6 apiece, 7 innings before that stretch, 6 1/3, 6 innings going back in time. So he's been giving you depth after a run of starts where he didn't even pitch into the 5th inning. Through all of May, 4 2/3 at most in every one of those starts. But since then, 6 or more in every start except the most recent one. In that one, faced the Reds in Boston, 17 hitters, struck out 3, walked 1, 2 earned runs allowed on just 1 hit. Not a bad outing. I'm not sure what happened at the end of that start. Why'd he come out? Something weird happened? That was another one of those. That's right. This was one of those rainouts last week. So that was the suspended game, I think. Well, regardless, he's been pitching in decent form as far as pitching deep into games. He's not a high upside pitcher in his own right. 3.42 ERA, but a 4.39 xFIP, a 16.7% strikeout, 10% walks. I think you can see the flaws. But you're throwing him against the Rockies team that's not that good. This projected version of the lineup, 24.4% strikeout rate. We'll get the confirmed in there. It's going to be either the same or higher. But Bayo's just really cheap for the potential to go 6 innings, 7 innings against a team that'll push 6, 7 strikeouts in his direction. Confirmed 25.9%. It went up. That's even with swapping Orlando Arcia in there at 18.8%. You just got a ton of Ks in this lineup. They do have a lot of quality in terms of home run hitting and power. It's more theoretical power, but we do have a number of these guys at least into the double digits now. And there is the idea of all these barrels, all this hard hit rate. I don't think the Rockies against Brian Bayo are off the board as much as that 3.46 implied total would suggest. Good hitting environment plays up for them as well, and it's a gettable starter. As much as Bayo's a tremendous asset at 66, even at 84 on FanDuel against this team, he's on the board. I would put them on the board as a little bit of a low-owned wild card contrarian team. Don't get aggressive with it, but at least 1 through 7, entirely playable guys, and nobody's expensive. Tyler Freeman at 43.28, 343, 428, 457 on the year. Creating runs 39% better than average. What he doesn't give you as much power, but extreme low strikeouts, 7.8% strikeouts over 10.2% walks. Similar numbers in the last couple seasons. Just give me some cheap bat on ball to get things started against Brian Bayo. I'll take it. I mean, that's what he gives you. 43's gotten up there a little bit on DraftKings, but still manageable because you go 43, 49 for the 2 quality guys at the top, and then you get cheap with all these mediocre players down here. On FanDuel, you don't even have that problem. Hunter Goodman's your top priority bat, 12.6% barrels, 50+% hard hits, 16 homers, 232 ISO, tremendous option. 4,900 at catchers, perfectly fine. 32, he's got outfield eligibility to go with the first base on FanDuel. Love that. Mickey Moniak, I've been talking about for a little while now. I feel like he's up to 13 home runs. He's got a 271 ISO over 237 plate appearances. This is like elite form Mickey Moniak. And again, I'll remind you, former number 1 overall pick. Had a good season 2 years ago in a half of a season for the Angels. Just has gotten kind of kicked around a little bit, never really gotten full opportunity. As somebody mentioned just the other day, development is not linear for these guys. Sometimes it just takes a while. They were talking about Joe Adell when they said it. Same thing applies for his former teammate, Mickey Moniak. Jordan Beck at 4,000, 3,000, 10 home runs, 10 steals, an interesting season, 101 WRC+. You have 4 guys at the top of this lineup that are creating runs above average, and that's an average of a 117 WRC plus among those 4 hitters. Not one of them is named Michael Talia, who has the best power upside on this team. 3,100, 2,800. He's at 10, 285 plate appearances, got himself sent down to the minors because he's been maddeningly inconsistent. He's striking out at a 38.2% clip, but he's a really interesting bat at 31-28 to throw at Brian Bayo. The thing that Bayo does do well is limit home runs, limit fly balls, 5.6 degree average launch, 2.43% home run rate. So that pushes his upside a little bit further as well. And it does limit the enthusiasm about a player like Talia. It's also why you see low home run numbers here for the Rockies. So again, we want to temper any expectations about the Rockies doing anything real here. But I do think that they're in the mix. Ryan McMahon at 35-28. Inconsistent. Again, another really frustrating player, but 12 home runs. 165 ISOs low for a guy with a 12.2% barrel, 49.7% hard hits. Brenton Doyle's been putting great bat on ball, but not finding any quality results for it over 312 plate appearances. We know that given this, he can be quite a bit better than what he's done. We just saw him go 23-30 last year over 603 plate appearances, 260, 317, 446. If he was doing this season, this team would be notably better. If they were getting last year out of Brenton Doyle and out of Michael Talia, this team would be not only notably better, I would argue they'd be good. Because they're getting quality out of these guys right now. So it's an interesting group. And then Orlando Arcia and Ryan Ritter are along for the ride at the bottom of the lineup. Ritter's the more interesting out of the two, but hasn't done much at the major league level. If you're going Red Sox, which everybody is, it's going to be popular. Eaton at 25-23 is extremely cheap. Slashing 286, 333, 381. Righty bat at the top of the lineup. There's not a ton of quality outside of just a little cheap bat on ball. I have to point out he's also striking out 37.5% of the time, and all those at-bats with plate appearances came in this situation. Low strikeout opponent, but we need to be realistic about Nate Eaton. Romy Gonzalez is actually good, especially against lefties. 326, 357, 566, 4 homers, a 240 ISO. Thunder in the bat against left-handed pitching, which is where most of these plate appearances come from. Second base eligibility is dynamite for 44 for 32 on FanDuel. Love the upside there. Roman Anthony at 39-29, up to 250, 353, 398, 2 homers, 111 WRC plus. Tons of upside for him at a cheap price. Get him while he's cheap. Take advantage. I mean, the kid's going to go up in price very, very soon, given the quality with which he's hitting the ball as well. 11% barrel, 54% hard hits. Ref Snyder, most of this work comes against lefties as well. He's 37-28 across sites, fits right into the outfield for a cheap price. It's going to be popular, especially for being Rob Ref Snyder. Journeyman player, platoon focused player, but gets a weak lefty to hit against today again. 275, 361, 490. Can't argue with the production at 216 ISO, 5 homers. Trevor Story's the big power bat of the day in this lineup again. 14 home runs on the season, 14 stolen bases. He's followed up by Ceddanne Rafaela, who's up to 12 home runs and 11 steals. Both those players are really interesting fantasy contributors, even if they're up and down for quality in terms of actual baseball output. And this year, Ceddanne Rafaela is up to a 108 WRC plus. You can see Trevor Story's issue in the 88 WRC plus, but both guys putting up tremendous contact, putting up great counting stats. Just go there when you're using them for DFS. It's not like you have to trade for them on your favorite team. Jarren Duran at 45-34 struggles against lefties, but not all lefties created equal. I like the upside for Jarren Duran today, just like I liked it yesterday for Willier. I'd be saying the same thing if he were in the lineup. Abraham Toro, Connor Wong in the lineup today. Mix and match pieces down toward the bottom. Toro was very, very good over a stretch of plate appearances. Probably going to cool off pretty aggressively as we go forward. 31-28. You're not paying any kind of tax for it. I don't love him at the corners, though. And then Wong, coming off a season where he hit a bunch of home runs. What do you have? 13 and 487. I guess it cooled in terms of the power, but slash 283, 33, 425. Creator runs 10% better than average. Just 9 homers the year before. It was a quick start with the home runs. I guess he didn't keep up the pace, but that's a very, very strong year from a half season catcher. 2,300, 2,100 for that kind of upside. I will take it, and he's going to be less popular than he ought to be in that Red Sox lineup. So he's a differentiator for Red Sox stacks. Not an ideal wraparound guy, but if you're going to have some Trevor Story, some Dan Rafaela there, you get a little connection there going this way, and he can clear the bases. So apologies to Nate Eaton, but I'm looking like second base, outfield, short, outfield. If you do that, fill all 3 outfield spots with Red Sox, put Romy at second base. Now I get both corners from another team and my catcher from another team, and I'm only paying $4,040 a piece for the 5-man. That said, this is probably the most popular way to build this Red Sox team. I think they maybe get more interesting if you actually forgo Roman Anthony. If you just do that and take the dip down to the catcher at 23, we free up one of the outfield spots. So we'd be getting both corner infield spots and an outfielder from the other team or individually. And we're down to 37-20 for this stack. And I don't mind leaving Anthony out of here. I obviously want a lot of them, if I'm building multiple Red Sox stacks, he'll be one of the most highly utilized Red Sox in there. But if I'm building one and I'm just looking for like the angle into the stack, I think that's one way to go with it. And then I think my number 2 elimination would probably be Snyder. This isn't letting me click on anything now. Would probably be Snyder at 37. And you'd go 44 here. And then 1, 2, take Duran lefty, and take the bottom end and grab those 4, wrap it around the Romy off the top, or he connects directly to these guys anyway. He's individually good anyway. And I'm at 38.80 a piece. I think that's a really interesting team to build with. They're going to be popular even in the lowest configurations. On FanDuel, you get 4 bites at the apple. Everybody's pretty affordable outside of this stretch of hitters is oddly the most expensive on the FanDuel slate. Oh, actually, I guess they are on DraftKings as well. Appropriately so. Red Sox bats. Brian Bayo. Rockies bats. No Kyle Freeland. Whoops. Beyond the Rabbit Hole likes Colorado today, saying the whole game is intriguing. Yeah, outside of Kyle Freeland, I think the whole game is at least intriguing. I agree, Monty. 27 this offseason, just coming into his prime, free agent, like a 3-year, handful of $1 million, bargain kind of contract, but getting him paid a little bit. Obviously not fulfilling the potential maybe of a former first overall pick in his first free agency, big shot at free agency. But I think he's going to get a decent little shot somewhere. I could see him ending up on a high quality team too. You end up with the Royals or somebody like that. He seemed like a Royals kind of a guy. The Blue Jays. Not that they're short on outfielders, but yeah, especially as OMG Lowell points out, another thing putting the Rockies even more in play a little bit as far as being an intriguing team is that Bayo's popular at those cheap prices. Again, great spot for him, especially at the cost. And what really is the monkey wrench there, if you go to the Rockies, is his ability to keep the ball down. It's not like he's invulnerable to home runs, but that is not a team that sequences all that well. So you do need to get that power upside out of the Rocks. It's the one concern. Cubbies, 478 implied total. I mentioned in the rundown, really, really interested in some Cubs bats today. You could see Seiya Suzuki at 11.27 above the magic number PCA, and Kyle Tucker pushing it in the 9s. Ian Happ at just under an 8 up at the top of the lineup. Some mid-grade power through the middle. This Cubs team just creates runs like crazy. Look at all those WRC plus marks. The bottom, Matt Shaw, just a 68 WRC plus. Poor guy. Everybody else in this lineup significantly above average. Let me grab the actually confirmed version. Make sure there's no changes. At a glance, it looks the same. You'd think I would know the order of those teams going now. Yeah, I have that one already. So, yeah, Cubbies lineup, the top 8, that's an average WRC plus of 132. Pretty tremendous. Monster power through this lineup. A lot of guys who run as well. Guys who are very good at getting on base. Low strikeout overall, 19.7. That's a little, nobody all that low sample. 6.8% from Nico obviously helps. 13% from Kyle Tucker, which is very real. You do have some Ks through the middle here. But Simeon Woods Richardson, just a 20% strikeout rate this year, sub 10% swinging, sub 25% CSW. Pretty limited. Similar numbers last year. So I think this just is who he is. He's also given up an 11.5% barrel rate, 42+% hard hits, 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo, way above, and just above our thresholds on a 20.4 degree average launch. That just equals home runs, guys. 331% home run rate is very lucky so far on those numbers. Love the upside for the Cubs. Hap is in my lineups, 4,100, 3,200. Great ability to get on base usually. 328 is okay. 155 ISO, 12 home runs. The power's been in a little bit of a decline this year, but his price is way down, 4,100, 3,200, even if he's just the table setter. And he's still putting up an 8.6% barrel, 40.4% hard hits. Does have tons and tons of upside. 343 xWOBA, 104 WRC plus. Kyle Tucker's expensive at 639, but not expensive for his quality. 17 homers, 22 steals, a 150 WRC plus, monster 395 xWOBA. He scored 65 runs, which is just feels crazy. Suzuki in the spot after him, 25 homers, 77 ribbies on the season, making his debut for the Dynasty team today. 5,300, 4,000 across sites, entirely affordable for a guy who puts 18.9% barrels on his batted balls. That's ridiculous. PCA 55-43, 23 homers, 27 steals, monster year out of PCA, breakout season, 137 WRC plus, ridiculous to watch in center field too. If you haven't seen PCA defensive highlights, just go on Twitter, YouTube, whatever, and just punch that in and enjoy for a few minutes. He is elite. Michael Busch at 47-33, 18 home runs, a 269 ISO, another guy just with tons and tons of power, 15% barrels, 45.9% hard hits to throw against a guy who, again, is allowing this over 12 starts. Love it. Dansby at 41-29 has 15 home runs, a 177 ISO, a little bit light in the output department, but it's not because he's not making premium contact. He's got his best barrel rate in a couple seasons, his best hard hit rate in a couple seasons. Striking out a little bit more, walking a little bit less. Some flaws maybe coming in around the edges that's impacting the on base, the overall run creation, but as a very affordable shortstop, he's got tons and tons of upside, 2 home run upside on the board, any given slate for Dansby Swanson. Carson Kelly's giving you a lot of power this year, 11 home runs and 216 chances at 240 ISO, ridiculous quality of contact out of him as well. Nico came out after everybody was talking about how he was one of 2 qualified hitters who had yet to hit a home run, came out and hit those 3 home runs all in a week. All Nico really gives you is some on base skills and some stolen base, some correlated scoring. Kind of not great from the 8 spot, but if you're going to wrap somebody around from down there, it's Nico every time over Matt Shaw. Shaw has been pretty bad overall this season, not getting on base, hovering around the Mendoza line, and that ugly 68 WRC plus. If you're building a ton of Cub stacks, though, you absolutely work in some Matt Shaw. He is low strikeout, he is high walk, so in defiance of that on base, he's stolen 11 bags. He's not completely dead at the bottom of the lineup. He's just their least appealing player in a highly appealing lineup. Byron Buxton. Let's knock on wood that Byron Buxton stays healthy through the rest of the season and the rest of his career, but at least through the All-Star break so that he can fulfill what he was talking about in some interview that I saw. Apparently his kid is really excited about, because he plays the show and he plays home run derby, about bringing his dad his Gatorade bottle and his towel in the middle of his home run derby break. Buxton going to be in the home run derby this year. That's a frightening thought. But I hope that happens for Byron and his kid. He's having a great year. 270, 334, 544, a 274 ISO, 20 home runs, 16 steals. This is who Byron Buxton is. If you ever get him for an extended stretch, this is what he does. There's nothing surprising about this. Monster premium contact option, fully priced at 61, 4,000 like the superstar that he is. Just needs to be out there. 33.29 for Ryan Jeffers is affordable. 6 home runs, a 140 ISO is kind of disappointing, but a 103 WRC plus. He gets on base. Not ideal in the 2 spot, but a quality enough bat, 8.1% barrels, 42.5% hard hits, and sustained quality over time, as well as a low strikeout and decent walk rates over the last couple of years. Willie Castro at 4,000, at 3,000, playable. 270, 364, 426, one of the better stretches as far as a slash line out of Castro. Also at a 125 WRC plus, 7 homers, 8 steals. He's just kind of mid as far as his actual power, his run creation ability, or his individual upside, but a good correlated scoring option who can come through with individual output. Carlos Correa hitting cleanup, 32-27. I'm still very interested. 44% hard hits. Still needs to find that barrel uptick that's going to get him back to stronger production. 256, 299, 379 this year, and 89 WRC plus. Could have a monster second half. Had a great half season last year. Royce Lewis at 28-25. Another player way underpriced for what the quality could be. Right now, over 130 plate appearances, really limited, but 11.1% barrels, 44.4% hard hits. Interesting enough hitter considering 16 home runs and 325 chances with a 219 ISO, 108 WRC plus last year. An elite 239 plate appearances back in 2023. There's tons and tons of upside. Harrison Bader's just another outfielder, basically playing like it. 10 home runs, 7 steals, a 113 WRC plus is definitely above average. Has been barreling balls more consistently this year, but don't buy the previous performance. Buy what the player actually is. He's not mispriced for that, but overall, he is just a $2,700 outfielder. Ty France, mix and match quality at first base. Not a great season, 92 WRC plus. An interesting 342 xWOBA if you need something to point to. Does put decent bat on ball. More a line drives guy. Line drives and doubles. Brooks Lee, Christian Vasquez just kind of spot fillers down toward the end of the lineup. Lee is at 266, 301, 394. So if you're getting aggressive with Twins in their 433 implied total, he's fine, but he's not that appealing. Imanaga on the mound, 9,000, 8,200. Fairly priced on FanDuel considering he's coming in at an 18.7% strikeout rate. He's got an I've said elite like 37 times on this show. He's got a sparkling 2.78 ERA, but an ugly 4.91 xFIP. That's one of the bigger discrepancies that we've come across. 10 starts, 55 innings, not a lot of depth overall this season. 12% swinging strike rate on the year. Last time out, 5 1/3, 3 earned runs on the 3 solo shots that I mentioned earlier. Just 4 strikeouts in that one. That was against the Guards. 3 strikeouts in an otherwise clean game. 5 innings, faced 17 hitters, 1 hitter, no runs allowed against the Cards, but a low strikeout performance. 2 earned runs on just 4 hits over 5 2/3 against Milwaukee. That one goes back to the beginning of May, and then he was out for most of May, or essentially all of May and most of June. So we're just 2 starts back, but 5 innings, 5 1/3 is consistent with what he was pitching prior to going out. So mixed quality, low strikeout. I don't really understand 9,000 on DraftKings, 82 on FanDuel. I think he's in the mix. He was much, much better last year. 25.1% Ks, 4% walks, 2.91 ERA, 3.62 xFIP. I think DraftKings is just pricing him like that guy today. And I don't know that that's fair. But 6 okay innings is on the board for him. Cubs bats with a bullet. Twins bats. Imanaga on FanDuel. Imanaga on DraftKings. No Simeon Woods Richardson. Yep, can't skip the Dodgers. Holy hell, do we have a long way to go. And an hour to get there. Now on the road again is going to be stuck in my head the rest of the day. Dodgers bats going up against Jacob Misiorowski. Clay Kershaw coming the other way against the Brewers. Kershaw 77-85. Really interesting. 17.5% strikeout rate. All right, fine. But a 10.3% swinging, 7.7% walk rate, a 3.43 ERA, a 4.11 xFIP. It's been pitching good enough for me. 3.28% home runs despite a lot of premium contact, but just 5.8% barrels. I'm not that worried about it. 6 innings last time out. Did give up 4 earned runs to the White Sox. Struck out just 3. Disappointing start, but against Colorado at Coors Field, just 1 run on 2 hits over 6, 5 strikeouts. The run came on a solo homer. 5 innings of quality against the Nationals, 2 earned runs, but only 4 strikeouts. The 2 earned runs came on 2 solo home runs. 7 innings of extremely high-end quality against the Giants that started that stretch. 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts. Struck out 7 over 5 innings against the Cards the start before that. So there's upside here for sure. 19.1% strikeout rate for these Brewers, but through the heart of the lineup, there are some Ks. This is bolstered a little bit by Caleb Durbin, Joey Ortiz down lineup, 2 otherwise not overly good hitters that are at low strikeout numbers. And then up at the top, Sal Frelick is very low strikeout and a decent quality bat. But there are Ks available for Kershaw at a very cheap price. 6 innings, maybe 7. Maybe getting greedy with saying 7, but 6 innings of quality here for 77, for 85. There's upside. There's upside to the bonus as well. You get the Dodgers against a rookie starter. Misiorowski, good as he is, 28% strikeouts, 13.3% walks. The walks are going to be an issue. Needs to wrangle that as he goes forward in the show. 3.20 ERA in his 4 starts, at 3.98 xFIP, though, inducing a 12.1% swinging. Put up several elite starts and then got tattooed. 5 earned runs against the Mets, as mentioned in his last start. Gave up 2 home runs in 3 2/3. Struck out just 2 and walked 3, but struck out 8 against the Pirates, 6 against the Twins, 5 against the Cards. He did walk 4 in that Cards game. Has walked a couple hitters in each game so far, but allowed just 2 earned runs and 3 hits over those first 16 innings that he pitched in those first 3 starts. Elite, damn it, again. Upside to being one of the best pitchers in baseball when it all comes together. Right now, underdeveloped, going up against one of the best lineups in baseball, even with a Hee-Sung Kim hitting 6th, Michael Conforto hitting 5th, Andy Pages hitting cleanup kind of configuration. It's still a really interesting Dodgers team, and now they're more affordable. I see a lot of reason to consider some Dodgers bats here against Misiorowski, but maybe he gets there given the downside of the bottom of this lineup. He's not out of play. At 88 on FanDuel, he's probably a little bit more appealing. 93 on DraftKings is kind of aggressive. Ohtani at 65.46 could bend the day for Misiorowski in an awful hurry. 30 home runs, 12 steals, a 168 WRC plus. Mookie, we've talked about his issues with the weight loss and just the challenging overall season. 11 home runs, 6 steals, a 249, 321, 392 slash line. He's at league average by WRC plus, 100 WRC plus. Not putting great bat on ball either. That said, for being Mookie Betts, for where he hits in this lineup, for the guys that surround him, he has gotten very, very inexpensive. 4,900 for Freddie Freeman is also kind of inexpensive considering the 307, 375, 493 slash line, the 140 WRC plus. I get that he doesn't hit for quite as much power anymore. I get that he doesn't really run anymore. If you need more on that, there's a Yahoo article that is talking about how he's not good anymore. Crazy. It was a season-long focused article too. He's, especially if you play with average as a stat, he's literally one of the top first basemen in the sport. It's ridiculous. Anyway, you just go to Freddie Freeman if you're playing Dodgers. 4,200, 3,200 for Andy Pages, who has 17 home runs and a 206 ISO. That's in spite of just 8.4% barrels and 39.5% hard hits. We know he's got a little bit more to give in that department. He's been downright interesting all year. 19.9% strikeouts, not a lot of walks, so you get a lot of bat on ball. Opportunities to surge with Andy Pages come and go. 206 ISO, a 128 WRC plus for staying quality. Michael Conforto, I've talked about a bunch of times. 178, 299 at the front end of the triple slash is not appealing, especially not when followed by 312 in the slug column. Just a 134 ISO, a 78 WRC plus. All that flies in the face of the contact that he's made. It's really borderline inexplicable to put up those poor numbers against that kind of contact. He's very cheap. He's a lefty to throw at a righty rookie. That said, 23.5% strikeouts this year, 24 the year before, 22.6 the year before that. Could be victimized if Misiorowski's got his stuff going. Hee-Sung Kim has been really interesting, over 105 chances and not expensive. 41 is very affordable in this lineup, second base and outfield eligible. And then FanDuel, 2,600. Thanks for the favor. He's slashing 337, 381, 469 with a 141 WRC plus. Yeah, it's just a 308 XWOB, but just a 133 ISO. Nobody's saying he's a power bat, but is an interesting guy to get on base ahead of a way too cheap Dalton Rushing, who's downright interesting, ahead of a even cheaper James Outman at the dead min on both sides. I talked about Outman yesterday, but starting things with Rushing, one of the top prospects in baseball, top catcher prospect in baseball when they called him up. 69 pretty mediocre plate appearances at 226, 304, 323. Just one home run, but 9.4% barrels and 50% hard hits, plays even against a potentially top-notch rookie. 29 is really cheap where you got to play catchers. 24 works for me on FanDuel. I would pair him with Freddie in the first base utility equation. I'm not skipping Freddie in favor of him too many times, but that's a really interesting bat down lineup. And then you get to Outman. Just ignore the 31 plate appearances this year. They've been atrocious. Does have a 250 ISO and 2 home runs in that tiny sample, I'll point out. Does have a 21.4% barrel rate, I'll note. 45.2% strikeouts as well. Was terrible last year, over 156 chances in and out of the lineup. Year before, 23 home runs, 16 steals, and 567 chances. Had just a 188 ISO, but that's just interesting counting stat output. Scored 86 runs that year, 118 WRC plus that year. James Outman is an interesting bat for the dead min from the left side to throw at Misiorowski here. If I'm going Dodgers and I just want to get cheap about it while grabbing some of these bats, that is not an uninteresting 3-man. And it costs $3,000 on the nose a piece. You're targeting Misiorowski, and again, he could come out with his fantastic stuff and blow away even the Dodgers. It could happen. And you're taking several of the lower end bats in this lineup. But there's a lot of justification for considering those three guys. And then if you're taking those three and you're bolting on even the, let's not even go. Let's go with, those three, Shohei and Freddie instead of Mookie. I'm still only at 4,080 apiece. And now I get Ohtani and Freddie with those guys. There's not, they're not unconnected in the lineup. Dodgers are affordable today. Miguel Rojas, bottom of the lineup, is less appealing than anybody we've talked about before at 2,400. He's a mixer. If you go to a lot of Dodgers stacks, he's on the board. Dodgers could be interestingly sneaky here. Brewers with South Frelick leading off 42, 3,000. See if we got this lineup in. We still have not. Frelick, if you're just looking for base hits, correlated scoring, definitely your man. He steals a few bases. He can be interesting that way, but you need follow through from William Contreras, from Jackson Chourio, from Christian Yelich, following him up. You get Andrew Vaughn in this lineup now. Dead min price on DraftKings. Vaughn's at least a little bit interesting. Has never come through at the major league level after a lot of draft capital was spent on him, played his way out of the White Sox organization. Now more interesting with the Brewers and a better lineup, the opportunity to come through. 193, 224, 332 on the season with a 50 WRC plus so far, over 196 plate appearances, just 6 home runs. That's in spite of a 13.1% barrel and a 48.3% hard hit. We've seen less talented players than Andrew Vaughn surge once they get new laundry, so wouldn't shock me at all. And on a day-to-day basis, just being at the min price kind of works. Yelich at 49, 35, 18 homers, 13 steals would play. Chourio at 48, 35, 15 homers, 16 steals. Going up against Clay Kershaw, tough spot for the kid. He's not striking out that much. He's really interesting, but I could see it being a lighter day for Chourio as compared to some of the veterans surrounding him. Isaac, don't misunderstand. You're playing Jackson Chourio if you're going to the Brewers, but he's less of a draw and less of a reason to go to the Brewers today is how I should put that. And then the bottom of the lineup, entirely beatable. Isaac Collins, Joey Ortiz, Caleb Durbin, Andrew Monasterio. Sure, whatever. Any one of those guys can fill out a stack. Not one of those guys is overly appealing. Not one of those guys is somebody I'd use to necessarily target Clay Kershaw. Interesting little pyramid of positionality going on there. Cheap Clay Kershaw. Dodgers bats giving a little benefit of the doubt to Misiorowski, but not all of it. Misiorowski third. Brewers bringing up the bottom. 4 corners game. Keith Vapes in the house. What's going on, buddy? Hit the nail on the coffin with Loper Fido yesterday. Yeah, he came through. Lately, see, guys, you don't want to get caught up in lately. Lately is not a thing. Baseball doesn't work that way. Small samples, they're meaningless. The last 50 plate appearances, they mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. That's why we don't talk about sample sizes really until we're normalized out to a few hundred plate appearances. Lately really doesn't mean anything, especially when you're talking about like the context of the last few days, the last few games. So, yeah, Hap is having a bit of a downturn for his season, but he's still above average for WRC+. He's still above average in a number of ways. Since June 15th, Hap is slashing 250, 400, 250. No slug available lately, but he's getting on base like crazy. 103 WRC+. 10 runs scored, 15 ribbies, 5 home runs in that stretch. Oh, fuck. I was looking at the wrong line. My bad. Yeah, the slash line's bad. All right. Sorry. I was looking at the line above it. 160, 292, 373 has hit for power. 5 home runs. I was going to say, I thought he had hit a few home runs lately. They came end of June. There was a little bit of a outbreak of power. 10 runs, 15 ribbies. But yeah, the slash line has been weak. Man, 250, 400, 250 would have been fine. Just a 92 WRC+. That's since June 15. So coming up on a month. But again, that's a meaningless sample in the grand scheme of a career from a hitter who's still only 30, about to turn 31. who is a 246, 342, 445 career hitter with a career 116 WRC plus, a 199 career ISO, 26.6% strikeouts for the career, but 12% walks. He's doing that. He's at a 22.6% strikeout rate. So he's improved on strikeouts, still drawing walks. Just seen a little bit of misfortune. Last 2 seasons, a 299 BABIP. Prior to that, 336, 281, 317 going back in time. He's at his lowest career batting average on balls in play, 270 BABIP. A little bit of misfortune baked in the first half for Ian Happ. They're going to him every single day in the leadoff role, despite having a preponderance of other options. I would suggest we continue to do the same thing when we go to the Cubs. Anyway, Blue Jays, 527 implied total. We need to pick up the pace. Their lineup's in, so is the White Sox. This is a very gettable spot for Blue Jays bats. They're going to be popular here against Savali, I would suspect. As we talked about in the rundown, I think Chris Bassett, 83, is way too cheap on DraftKings for facing the White Sox. Comes in with a 4.32 ERA, but a 3.60 xFIP, a 23.2% strikeout against a very low walk rate. Medium swinging strikes and CSW is pretty weak, but doesn't give up much premium contact at all. So you're taking any hopes of power upside away from this White Sox team. Then they're going to be relying on sequencing against a pitcher who's good enough to beat them for that. They're not good at doing that anyway. So love the upside for Bassett. 100 innings in his 18 starts. Solid numbers, a 35.1% hard hit, 87 miles an hour of exit velo. So you're talking about one of the guys who's better overall in the league at inducing weak and medium contact. When he's on, he is good. 5 2/3 of 3-run ball, 9 strikeouts, 3 walks his last time out, but that was against the Yankees. Melted down, as mentioned earlier in the show, against the Red Sox for 8 earned runs over 2 innings, but was on a tear of 6 and 7 inning starts for against 3 out of 4 games were against good teams prior to that. So there's tons and tons of upside for him facing the White Sox. Aaron Savali at 55, at 71. Not enough quality this year to really argue for it against a low strikeout, high quality Blue Jays team, pulling a 5+ implied total. On a shorter slate, I would maybe make the case for a couple $5,500 darts. I don't think you need to go there today. Wouldn't knock me out of my chair if Aaron Savali paid off an okay day over like 5 innings, 3 to 4 strikeouts. Maybe he goes clean over those innings and then checks out for the price, but I'm not going to make the case. Nathan Luke's at the top of the lineup, 31-25, slashing 271, 371, 392. Good enough table setter over those 199 plate appearances, creating runs 18% better than average. Very cheap option to lead directly into George Springer at 52-37 and Vladdy Guerrero, who's at 55-34 and correctly priced, I would say, for the production right now. Vladdy is going to go on a tear, you guys. 13.6% barrels, 53.4% hard hits, strikeouts, walks, all in line with expectations. Everything is just fully primed and covered in gasoline and just waiting for the spark for Vladdy Guerrero in the second half. Just a dozen home runs, 163 ISO right now. He's going to go for 30, and he's going to be a 200 ISO at the end of the season. George Springer has had a great first half, over 340. Need him to stay healthy and on form. He's great. 227 ISO, 143 WRC plus to lead this team among the guys who have any kind of sample. Joey Loperfido currently leading the team at 263 over 7 plate appearances. Bo Bichette, 4,500, 3,100. Holding down the cleanup spot pretty effectively. 9% barrels, 48.4% hard hits. Dozen home runs for him. 272, 311, 429. Very playable for the money. 4,500, 31 is inoffensive. You get a high-quality bat with a good lineup spot at shortstop. I don't mind that. Addison Barger at 42 has 12 home runs as well. 3 straight guys with a dozen home runs, 247 ISO, 132 WRC plus in the best season of his life. It's just him realizing his potential. Maybe we don't see a sustained 13.6% barrel and 54.4% hard hits over the second half, but does have a lot of individual upside and not really priced up at third base or in the outfield. Alejandro Kirk at 28-29. This is a somewhat deep lineup now. We're at the 6th spot, and that's a high-quality player. 300, 358, 410 this year, 7 home runs over 302 chances, putting great wood on the ball with a nearly 10% barrel, a 55% hard hit. Loperfido yet to barrel the ball, but he's got a home run on the board, 429, 429, 857. We talked about him yesterday. Very, very cheap filler at the end of the lineup, 2,500 on DraftKings, 2,000 still the dead min, despite the quality performance yesterday on FanDuel. Take advantage. Ernie Clement, scorching as far as just BABIP, The hit tool coming through, getting on base at a 338 clip, creating runs, 105 WRC plus, 42 runs scored in 324 plate appearances. Not a bad pace. Kid's interesting. Runs are entirely non-predictive, but their counting stats, they do matter for what we're doing here, and he's been providing them. Davis Schneider at 3,024, mix and match quality from the end of the lineup, but not unplayable. It's a 9-man lineup, oddly, for the Blue Jays, which is good because monster total, and they're going to be popular. I would definitely work in Loperfido, and I would consider fair shares of Ernie Clement. I don't think those guys are unplayable. It's not a situation necessarily where you only want one. If you're taking two, there's an argument to be made for the just straightforward approach of taking the catcher as well, grabbing all three of those connected hitters, and then just the two stars up there. And that makes sense. And that's just 4,080 a piece. So 4,100 on DK for the 5-man. It's not a bad approach. That said, what if we're taking Kirk out? And it's probably going to be more popular to go this route, actually. More popular and more expensive. I think I prefer the first build, but let's say you just wanted to go to Bo and connect those three guys at 45. That just puts you at 42.20 a piece. If you're on Barger instead, you're at 41.60. You're sub 4,200 for the stack that does include Springer and Vladdy. You can obviously start off with Luke's up at the top and kind of forgo in that combination probably the Clement share. So it would probably be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4,020 again. We're right around the same pricing. A lot of ways to build with the Blue Jays. Some positional flexes, dynamite on DraftKings where you need it. Like that a lot. White Sox bats against Chris Bassitt. Low quality, low end, low owned mixers for a low price. That's 3 lows. I think 3 lows beats a bad team. So Mike Tauchman, 38, 3,000, a 382 on base is downright interesting. 138 WRC plus. If you're going to beat Chris Bassitt with the White Sox, Tauchman's probably going to be a part of it. Lennon Sosa in the 2 spot is not entirely uninteresting. 33-28, 7 home runs. The issue there becomes, Tauchman gets on base. We're looking for Sosa to give us one of his low-owned, cheapo home runs that he can deliver. Bassitt, not terrible at home runs. Again, he's kind of limited barrels. He's kind of limited hard hits. Exit velo this year. Not great. Andrew Benintendi, I have no belief in the power that he's put up. 12.6% barrels is already plummeting. 10 home runs on the board. He's probably going to be at 10 a month from now. Miguel Vargas has been stuck on 10 for a minute now. He's also not as good as what he looked like at the beginning of the season. Between the two, I'm more intrigued by Vargas because I've seen more of Benintendi over time. Kyle Teel at 31.25 is interesting. 250, 387, 317, especially with that on base. 384 xWOB under the surface because he's got a 12.5% barrel, 42.5% hard hits. Hasn't really seen much productivity for the 75 chances, but a 109 WRC plus is well above the average for a $3,100 catcher where you have to play the position. He'd be on the board. Lubob is back, by the way. Bury the lead there. 3,000, 3,100. 185, 270, 313, 8 home runs, 22 stolen bases. Nothing over here is all that pretty. 63 WRC plus. Has consistently and aggressively put at least decent bat on ball even this season in this terrible stretch. He is super primed for a outrageously good second half because I traded him to EMAC in the Dynasty League as part of that package that yielded me Seiya Suzuki and Matt Olson for the second half. So farewell to Lubob. Love the kid. Think he's going to come surging back. Maybe not this second half, but in the future, long-term keeper. Colson Montgomery, 35-24. Off to a good start. 17 pretty solid plate appearances, 385, 500, 538. Let's put a few aggressively hit balls in play. Interesting player, high-end prospect for them. Brooks Baldwin, Josh Rojas, mix and match guys down the bottom of the lineup. Very much Blue Jays, followed by Bassitt, followed by the White Sox bats very lightly. Couple of darts of White Sox. If you want it, they're there. They're not very appealing here, if we're being honest. Pirates, Royals, Mitch Keller, Seth Lugo. Challenging spot for the Mitch Keller part of it. No Pirates lineup in yet. The Royals are just so low strikeout. They've got a lot of high quality batted ball, hit tool focused players in here with enough patience to kind of beat Mitch Keller on his downside. 3.64 ERA, a 3.93 xFIP, 18.9% Ks, a 5.8% walk. It's not like he's pitching poorly, but he's also not been, peak form, Keller. 21.5% strikeouts last year. 25.5 is what we're looking for from 2 years ago. 4.21 ERA, 3.70 xFIP that year. If you get that guy for a day, sure, he could find 6-7 strikeouts against this Royals team, but chances are limited. 7,400, very cheap. He's on the SP2 board for sure on DraftKings. 87 on FanDuel, I have a big problem with. I really don't think he can get that price. If he goes out and does what he did against the Cards, like I was saying earlier, though, last time out, 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, 5 hits, no runs. It's a great start. That works for your 74 on DraftKings in spite of a few hits. 7 Ks, pays the bills, no runs. That was against the Cards. Could do that here, but limited chances and just doesn't work for me over there. Lugo is very playable. 88, love the price. Like I said at the top of the show, easy to use as a lighter priced SP1 on DraftKings because of the opponent. The Pirates are just pushing big start after big start towards starting pitchers. 23.4% strikeout rate for this projected version of the lineup, and could be a worse version out there. So love the upside for Lugo at 88. Would play at 97, but that's a different kind of animal that you're wrestling with now. That puts him up near the top of the board in terms of price. He's got the talent. He's got the stuff to pay it off. 2.65 ERA, a 4.03 xFIP, 21.9% strikeouts this season. Not really inducing all that many swinging strikes, not really throwing overall all that many strikes. Capable of a bigger day than that against a free swinging team like this one. And just a good run limiter. Last year, 3.0 ERA, a 3.83 xFIP, 21.7% strikeouts. Didn't really walk many hitters. Same thing the year before with a few more strikeouts in play. Again, didn't really walk anybody. 3.57 ERA, 3.76 xFIP. Lugo's just a good innings eater. Goes out there and pitches deep into ball games. Should have a good one here against the Pirates. So like the upside there. And again, would play here. Not excited about it, but maybe a couple shares. Hopefully he's low owned because of that. Pirates bats against. I'm not that intrigued. If I'm going to the Pirates, cheap Spencer Harwitz at the top of the lineup for 32.28. Hasn't seen great output yet, but does have a good hit tool. Should be fairly low strikeout and high walk rate. A little bit better than he's been in this stretch. He has put good wood on the ball. Not really seeing results for it. Just a 109 ISO, 2 home runs, and an 81 WRC plus over 161. But I do believe the talent will win out in the end. He should be a decent, like middle of the road kind of a hitter. Andrew McCutchen putting good bat on ball, 8 home runs, still getting on base at a 337 clip, creating runs, but overall kind of mixed for quality and not a lot of support in the lineup. Brian Reynolds wants out of town, but only to a few specific places. Putting good bat on ball, not seeing great results for it. 229, 294, 378 is ugly. 84 WRC plus, but a 360 xWOBA because of the tremendous contact he's made. Just a lot of bad luck. 10 home runs is off pace for what we know the quality of Brian Reynolds looks like. Probably does need that change of uniform. Nick Gonzalez at 35.29, mix and match quality, solid slash line, not much of a bat other than the solid slash, but gets on base, quality table setter with a 115 WRC plus. He's in the mix. O'Neal Cruz with his tremendous thunder from the 5 spot, 5,436 in the projected lineup, could easily be back up here. We'll see where he lands. 15 home runs, 28 steals. Otherwise, kind of underwhelming, especially for those of us who were calling for the big breakout season. He is, I'll note, putting better bat on ball by 6 points of barrel rate and 2 points of hard hit rate so far this season to save the day for that call. He is also walking quite a bit at a 13.4% rate, but he's pushed strikeout up. He's also only slashing 203, 315, 402. And thank goodness for that 13.4% walk rate, or we'd be below a 300 on base. A lot of flaws. A lot of upside, 199 WRC plus, a 354 xWOBA, and just some of the most ridiculous, absurd, incredible tools in the league in terms of just raw skills. I almost said elite again. 2,526 for Ke'Bryan Hayes is affordable, but he's not that good. Never sees results for hitting the ball fairly hard and fairly consistently. Tommy Pham's just bad now. Joey Bart is a high-quality catcher in terms of the bat on ball. Another guy who just doesn't see the results for how good he actually strikes the baseball. 3,100, 2,500 across sites. He's playable, but against Seth Lugo, I just lean Lugo. And then IKF has never been much of a hitter. On the Royals side, Jonathan India continues to disappoint us. He's at a 330 on base, just a 90 WRC plus, no stolen bases, just 4 home runs. It's been a weird season from India. As long as they roll him out at the top of the lineup, I will continue to put him into some of my Royal stacks, but a lot less aggressively than it was at the beginning of the year. Bobby Witt's interesting at 54-41 against Mitch Keller. Vinny Pasquantino at 45-32 starts a run of good bats who are way too cheap. So really like the upside for the Royals. 429 implied total is enough for me. You've got a stretch of high quality bats that people just aren't going to go to enough. I did mean to highlight Caglianone, despite the 144, 202, 234 slash line, the 2 home runs and 119 chances. He was supposed to be included in that stretch because he's very, very cheap at 2,400. 2,800 is an outfielder only on DraftKings. You probably want him in the outfield as well on FanDuel because you've got multiple guys, first base, catcher, etc., that you need there. So that's the correct positioning. He's affordable. He's got an 8.2% barrel. Ridiculous minor league power numbers, just a 21.8% strikeout rate, 4.2% walk. So he has been putting bat on ball. Against Keller, that plays up. I like the upside. This stretch of hitters, just really, really interesting across the board. 45, 43, 32. Everybody's too cheap on DraftKings. Yes, including Sal and his underperformance. 32, 31, 29. Same deal on FanDuel. Vinny is at 271, 331, 439 now. What is wrong with that? 15 home runs, a 339 xWOBO, 111 WRC plus. Completely rescued the bad month and change that he had several months ago. Now we're just dealing with normal upside version of Vinny Pasquantino, who is making some of the changes that we were asking for in terms of barreling the ball a little bit more, continuing to hit at a low strikeout, drawing a similar walk rate. So love the option there. Michael Garcia is at 43-31, despite a 306, 365, 467 slash line, 8 home runs, 18 steals, and a 130 WRC plus. Don't really get that price either. And then Sal, 13% barrels. It's resulted in 11 home runs over 362 plate appearances. We are off pace. More concerningly for me, not hitting for average, not really getting on base that much. The 350 xWOB is incredibly encouraging, though. It tells me that we're gonna hopefully eventually normalize, or at least reason to believe that we're going to normalize to previous Sal Perez quality. He's just cheap at these prices. Bottom of the lineup after Caglianone leaves something to be desired around Nick Lofton, John Rave, and Kyle Isbell. That is a situation where if I'm going to any of those guys, I only want one, and it's only to extend and cheapen out a 5-man on DK, really. You do, if you're building 30 Royal stacks, you obviously mix some of those guys in on FanDuel too, but they're just spot fillers. Seth Lugo? Actually, Seth Lugo on DraftKings. Royals bats. Seth Lugo on FanDuel. Mitch Keller. Really DraftKings, then FanDuel, but on both sites, and then the Pirates bats. That's in the cards. Both these lineups are in. Just a 3-3 implied total on the Nats side. Couple of really, really low marks on this board. Could be a good just string of lanterns to guide your way out in the darkness. If you don't have time to listen to the rest of this show, for whatever reason, just follow some of those low totals to your pitchers. Cards lineup's already in. So, Sonny, freaking Luis Garcia. I gotta find where in the model this junior is buried so that I can get out of this issue with this naming. Just one more thing to remember. And the Max Muncy thing is driving me nuts because since it's this Max Muncy, the A's one that's healthy now and the other one's out, I still have to make that stupid change so I get to the right guy. Drives me crazy. Anyway, so Sonny, 97-96, fully priced, but fair by comparison to the other top-end pitchers on the board. 100 innings in 17 starts, giving you decent depth, 3.51 ERA and a sparkling 2.98 xFIP, 26.8% strikeouts against just 4.5% walks, 12% swinging, 30.5% CSW. People like to pretend that Sonny Gray's not good, and he just is. He wasn't great when he was on the Yankees a few years ago, but he was tremendous throughout last year. Pitched to a 30.3% strikeout rate against 5.8% walks, 3.84 ERA, and a 2.82 xFIP last year. Very similar season to this year. Season before, 24.3% strikeout, 7.3% walks, 2.79 ERA, 3.65 xFIP. Sonny Gray's just really, really good at this. Fire away against the Nats when they're coming in at a total like this. I will respect that a little bit. I do like some of the Nationals bats. It wouldn't shock me if they had a successful enough day. 2 excellent players at the top of the lineup, 55-34, 12 home runs and 19 steals for CJ Abrams, 58-39 for James Wood, who has 23 home runs and 12 stolen bases with a 261 ISO, a ridiculous 407 xWOBA that tells us he could be even better than this. 18.6% barrels, 56.4% hard hits. Not quite Aaron Judge numbers, but we're getting there. James Wood is just really, really talented. 2 big lefty bats off the top, but then we kind of decline a little bit. We've got Luis Garcia, 41-28. Mediocre season so far, just a 97 WRC plus, limited output overall. By comparison to last year, he's kind of dwindled a little bit. He's playable at 41-28, especially at second base, but not an overly appealing option. Nathaniel Lowe has given you a lot of quality as far as driving in runs this season. He's got 58 ribbies on the season. There's another stat that's not at all predictive, not something we want to be talking about too much, except in backward-looking contextual conversations about the fantasy points that he's provided. And he's certainly done that. A lot of it is about the guys on base in front of him. 356 and 391 just feeds him a lot of opportunities. You can see he's only slashing 235, 302, 402, 167 ISO, just a 309 XWO, but it's not like he's been good. He's not even been as good as his prior seasons, but at least he's hit for a couple bits of power. He's been good in those situations with, runners in scoring position and so on, the things they put on baseball broadcasts that don't actually mean anything. He's been good at coming through in those situations this year. 37-28. It's meaningless what he's already done in terms of those 377 plate appearances, but it does mean something in the context of he's been a better on base hit tool bat than that in the past. We've seen him go for 27, I want to say, home runs in a season in the past. Typically, he's in the 18 to 20 range. So a little bit of interesting power output this year. He's probably my third man in if I'm going Nats against Sonny Gray, but I don't think that's the right move today. Josh Bell, 3,000, 2,700, 11 home runs, a 152 ISO, up to a 10.6% barrel and 45.2% hard hits. Another guy who might be interesting in another uniform, 17.5% strikeouts, 9.6% walk rate. Josh Bell's not bad, but he's also not good. Doesn't really see great results, but is capable of just hitting utter moonshots. Brady House, 29-26 is mix and match quality over 78 plate appearances, but supposed to be quite a bit better than what he's been so far. Dale and Lyle, Riley Adams, Jacob Young going down the board, all mix and match at the absolute best. 80, 20, and 72 WRC pluses so far in limited samples. On the card side, as mentioned, they don't project out great for fantasy. It's just difficult with these performances to get these guys to, where those run totals suggest they ought to be sometimes. And those are the days where they break a little bit for us. So you might need to give the cards a little bit of a nudge if you're looking to get there. 481 implied total is definitely appealing. You do have playable and projections that should get into some of your lineup building at these prices at the top of the lineup. It gets a little thinned out in the average that hits the stack board by the Pedro Pajas, the Victor Scott portion of the lineup, down lineup, Thomas Segisi in the lineup at a limited projection. So it depends on what you're looking for. As far as I think there's more quality, I think there's more ceiling available against Jake Irvin with that Cardinals total. And we've seen them crush spots like this throughout the season. You got some interesting bats here. No Arenado in the lineup today with his limited performance on the year. Brendan Donovan's been good at 4,200, 2,800 out of the top spot. Very solid table setter so far this season. A 367 on base, creating runs 25% better than average by WRC plus, and hitting the ball hard. Low strikeout, medium quality walk, so a lot of well-struck balls in play. 7 homers on the year. Good table setter. I prefer other bats in the lineup to Mason Wynn, but if you're going here, I get filling shortstop with a reasonable quality 2-hitter for 3,800. For 3,000 on FanDuel, that's a little bit less appealing. 38 works a little better price-wise on DK. 97 WRC plus, a 306 XWO with just a 123 ISO. He's limited overall. Alec Burleson's more interesting. Put Goodwood on the ball so far this year. He's just 39 in the outfield, 27 in the outfield, 8.21 in the home run model, starting a stretch of interesting bats with 8+ marks in the home run model today. They're not cracking the magic number, but those are 3 interesting hitters. 11 home runs apiece for Alec Burleson and Wilson Contreras. 8 home runs on the board for Nolan Gorman, but he's got friends everywhere. 11.2% barrels, 44% hard hits, 349 xWOB under the covers, a 100 WRC plus on the year. Tons and tons of strikeouts, but he's limited it so far this season. We're down to 28.6%, still high, but it's a lot lower than 37.6 last year and 31.9 the year before, and he's maintained that walk rate. It's a sneaky maybe upswing for Nolan Gorman going on. Thomas Segisi at 26-23, mix and match quality, but no worse than Nolan Gorman would have been in this spot, or than Nolan Arenado would have been in this spot. And he's very affordable. So if you're going to aggressive card shares, you can definitely take some cheap Segisi. Probably prefer him at second base, but then you'd be, actually Gorman at third, him at second. That kind of works out on DK. On FanDuel, I probably prefer each of them at second, but you can mix and match your way through the multi-position all you want. Lars Nootbaar hiding down the bottom of the lineup at 41-29. 11 home runs over 370 plate appearances. Not the greatest home run pace in the world. 145 WRC plus, flies in the face of 9.6% barrels and 51.9% hard hits. hits. I said WRC plus, I meant ISO. WRC plus is just at 100 league average. He's still their best bat. And he's going to get underappreciated down the bottom of the lineup there. So take advantage of Lars Nootbaar. Pedro Paz, Victor Scott, entirely skippable down there. Scott does steal you bases, a little bit of correlated scoring, but just an 88 WRC plus, entirely unreliable. Since these guys are so affordable, just as like a value stack, as a secondary stack, as a building block, like a Donovan, and I'll 5-man it. And then you could go to like a high-priced 3-man. Donovan, Burleson, probably Contreras. Gorman for sure. And then Nootbaar. 4,080. We're landing right around that price range with several of our really interesting stacks. Right in that like 38 to 42 range for 5-mans, depending on configuration. There's a lot of interesting mid-board type teams like the Cards, like the Blue Jays today. There's a good argument to be made for skipping Wilson Contreras in that configuration just so that you get a higher quality first baseman, especially because you're spending 46 on him. He's been all right, putting good wood on the ball, undeniably. 11 home runs, 250, 341, 420, a 117 WRC plus. Nothing about any of that is bad. But I would think in those guys that I highlighted, maybe the most skippable, like Donovan, Burleson, Gorman, Nootbaar, and then that's the issue. Then it's just I'm taking an underwhelming Mason Wynn at short instead. Maybe you do take Sagisi there and just focus on lowering that price. So you're like 1, 2, 3. That gets you down to 3,700 a piece, 3,680 a piece for a 5-man. Gorman, Sagisi, Nootbaar, and Donovan Burleson up at the top. You're really the only guy that it's painful to leave out there is Wilson Contreras. That works. Sonny Gray, Cards bats, Nationals bats as just a weird little wild card for a couple limited shares, but it's really only about the top couple guys in that lineup. So probably pretty limited and not worth throwing as a dart. And no Jake Irvin. I kind of skipped over him, but 4.71 ERA, 4.62 xFIP, no strikeouts, too many walks, kind of speaks for itself. Boy, there are a lot of games still. What's that? 4 and 1 sneaky one down there. Awesome. Joey Cantillo striking out 29.7% over 31 2/3. One start, went 3 1/3 in the most recent outing. Don't think we're playing him for quality here. I'm probably going to take an inning away just to make sure that projection goes down to an appropriate place. He was pumped up a little bit, and I didn't quite notice it based on the strikeout upside, but I see a lot of visible downside here going up against the Astros. I mentioned Isaac Paredes almost became the home run pick of the day. 11.16 in a home game, downright interesting for him. We do have the confirmed lineup for both of these teams, so we'll get into that. Hunter Brown speaks for himself. Highest price pitcher on the day, but man, what a season he's having. Dominant option on the top of the board. So definitely interested in going to some Hunter Brown against a gettable enough version of the Guardians where there were some strikeouts here. Couple danger bats, but not that many. Definitely could be a ridiculously good day for the most obvious pitcher on the slate. Happy to pay the price too, honestly. There are enough cheap bats, cheap stacks, and enough ways to get there with still some differentiation, especially if we're going to some of those mid-type teams that are cheap on a large slate. Easy enough to get clear of any kind of pile up on similar lineup builds. 1.82 ERA, a 2.66 xFIP, 32.1% strikeouts, pitching deep into games, 104 innings in his 17 starts. Kid is just fantastic. Fire away. 296 implied total for the Guardians. Mostly keeps them off the board. If they had the Astros lineup, maybe it would be a different story. Stephen Kwan leading off, 4,2,700. Good slash line on the season. Contact-focused hitter, puts the ball in play. Good table setter, but you're dealing with a challenging situation for the entirety of this lineup. So yes, if you're going to the Guardians, you play Stephen Kwan. Yes, you probably play some Nolan Jones in there and hope for the best at 25-23. I've talked about him throughout the season, the interesting numbers he's put up in the past, the fact that he is still putting very good bat on ball. He's high strikeout Pretty high walk rate as well. Just struggling to find quality, find his form. But a 338 xWOBA makes the argument pretty well. Very, very cheap, hitting between Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez. 53-32 for Ramirez is very worth paying for against anybody. 15 home runs, 22 stolen bases against a ridiculous pitcher like Brown. You do not leave Jose Ramirez out of too many Guardian stacks. You don't build too many Guardian stacks. Carlos Santana at 33-27 has 10 homers. An up and down kind of season. 325 on base, down to a 97 WRC plus. Not a lot to cling to on that 304 xWOBA. 42.1% hard hits. Still low strikeout, high walk though. If we're looking to just kind of throw bats at Hunter Brown, he's in the conversation. Daniel Schneemann is cheap at 3,100 at second base. Angel Martinez is cheaper. Second base and outfield for him. 2,500, 2,200 with multi-position for both guys on the FanDuel slate. Neither guy coming through that regularly this year. Over 200 plate appearances for both dudes. 89 and 72 WRC plus. I think we can move along with both guys also under 300 on base percentages. That applies to the entire bottom of the lineup. Bo Naylor is kind of interesting down there if you're just hunting for a cheap catcher. Does put good wood on the ball from time to time. 10.7% barrels, but just 34.3% hard hits. Too many strikeouts. 180, 281, 370 on the season with an 85 WRC plus. Jonkenzie Noel, over 107 plate appearances, has only hit 2 home runs. He's slashing 146, 168, 223. His WRC plus is 4. 96% worse than average over that stretch. He's the dead min price, and he's got super interesting power upside if he happens to connect. Very unlikely to, but considering how cheap he is, he would probably make the cut if I was compelled to build a Guardian stack, which I am not. Brian Rocchio, not really in play, mostly here for defense. And then now the actual Astros. So Paredes didn't make him the home run pick, but love that spot. 11.16 at the top of the model. 4,500, 3,300 across sites. Very affordable. Third base only, but very playable there. Cam Smith, 4,000, 3,000, has 7 home runs, a solid slash line, a good run creation mark at 120 WRC plus. Very good pairing off the top with both guys getting on base in an elite clip. Jose Altuve at 5,000, 3,300, 16 homers, getting on at a 328 pace, 183 ISO, just a 299 XWO is still concerning, but a 116 WRC plus. Tremendous season so far from Altuve. Just needs to keep doing what he's doing. Jainer Diaz at 36-28 has an 8.3 in the home run model. Right behind him, Victor Caratini at 34-27, 6.18. Can't play them both on DraftKings, can on FanDuel, and with a lack of a first baseman, not an uninteresting configuration because it's probably not going to come up as often for people. 12 home runs for Diaz in an otherwise underwhelming season, but he's kind of coming on. 9 home runs on the board for Caratini in a strong season for him. Cooper Hummel, Mauricio Dubon, Zach Short, and Taylor Trammell down lineup all are mix and match quality at the absolute best. 62 decent plate appearances out of Hummel with a 125 WRC plus. The 11 plate appearances out of Zach Short have obviously been good, but there's not a ton of quality there. Trammell's kind of interesting down lineup. Has done very little with these 18 plate appearances. Did nothing in 8 chances last year. 56 the year before that did nothing. 117 chances the year before that did nothing. So there's nothing really to see in those stat lines, but has been an interesting minor leaguer, and he's just a toolsy kid. So a mix and match guy if you're building a bunch of Astros lineups. Probably my favorite bat hitting 9th from Cooper Hummel down. Everybody up here, way, way more interesting. Hunter Brown with a bullet. Astros bats. And really nothing from the Guardian side. I think we're going to lower the projection on Joey Cantillo a little bit before in the next update after the show. And Guardian's just really tough at a sub-3 total. Rangers, 4-1-3 implied total, going up against a not uninteresting Jose Soriano. A little bit of strikeout upside. Definite ability to limit home run power. So far this season, just a 0.90% home run rate. That'll play against a team that's been limited for home run quality, despite having a bunch of guys who hit the ball very, very hard and in their careers have hit tons and tons of home runs. Negative 3.4 degree average launch. 3.72 ERA, but a very nice little 3.42 xFIP tucked under the covers there. 20.5% strikeouts, but it comes on an 11.7% swinging. Too many walks. Too many guys on base at a 1.42 whip. But if you're gonna check power the way that he does, it doesn't burn you as much as it could. I'd like him to put fewer guys on base, but it doesn't really crush him. Similar numbers last year, but in relief work 2 years ago over 42 innings, a 30% strikeout rate. Can kick it up a notch when he needs to. 7,300 on DraftKings against this version of the Rangers. I'll take the shot. 89 on FanDuel is not incorrect. I think he's playable, but a lot less appealing on the FanDuel slate, given the upside of similarly priced pitchers. Nathan Eovaldi at 10,000, 9,400 is a similarly priced pitcher on FanDuel who projects out a little bit better, going up against a more exploitable lineup. As hard-hitting as these Angels are, they have a 27.6% strikeout rate for this projected version of the lineup. A lot of Ks available for Nathan Eovaldi, who comes in at a 26.8% strikeout rate, 4.4% walks. That's over 14 starts and 77 and a third innings. He's just been tremendous this season. 1.75 ERA, a 2.74 xFIP. It's a full run higher, but it's still one of the best xFIPs in the league among guys who have made 10 plus starts. 13.3% swinging, nearly a 30% CSW, just a 1.34% home run rate, 7.2 degree average launch. If you want to nitpick, it's around the barrels. A couple of mistakes in there, but it has not cost him in any way. Fire away. It could all come crashing down around the few Angels home runs if they manage to get to his power and get a few balls in the air. You've got Mike Trout, you've got Taylor Ward, you've got Joe Adell, Jorge Soler, monster lurking power down there. Zach Neto is a star up at the top of the lineup. There's a lot to work with in the Angels lineup. They are on the board given the nearly 4 implied total. If you're just chasing downside with Eovaldi, a little bit of a slip, and all the good starts, you're going to get a bad one even from good pitchers from time to time. And Eovaldi over time has not been as strong as he's been so far this year. So he's been a little bit more targetable, but he's been mostly good throughout the career. Lean heavily toward Eovaldi. And I would say Soriano after that, and then we get to the bats. Between the two, we'll start on the Rangers side. No confirmed lineups in just yet. Josh Smith, top of the lineup, 41.29. Mix and match quality player. The numbers have cooled already, but 285, 358, 426. We're still a little bit higher than he's going to eventually be, but that's closer to the mark with Josh Smith. Decent enough run creator. 122 WRC plus, a 337 xWOBA under the cover so far this year. Corey Seager remains a star. I know his numbers are not great. They're not Corey Seager-like overall this year, but he's got a 205 ISO. He's hit 12 home runs in 258 chances. He does have that 125 WRC plus, and that comes on 15.9% barrels and 54.7% hard hits so far. He's got a 420 xWOBA. Monster second half inbound for Corey Seager. Take advantage of 44 right now while he's still affordable. Well, maybe not right now because Soriano might take some of that away, but keeping him in mind over the next few days while he's still affordable. Marcus Semien at 43 at 29 on FanDuel, differently priced across sites. DraftKings pricing the upswing a little bit. FanDuel kind of holding firm. 232, 311, 354, 89 WRC plus. 9 home runs, 7 steals, a little bit of a surge through June. 332 xWOBA means he's somewhat interesting again. Adolis Garcia under the surface, or actually right on the surface, 13.1% barrels, 49.4% hard hits. Incredibly visible contact, and then everything else just kind of doesn't come through. It's a weird year. It's a weird continuation of last year. 38.28. He's gotten very cheap for what the power upside eventually looks like. Evan Carter at 42.31, playable, line drive quality hitter, 268, 354, 411, creating a lot of runs, getting on base pretty consistently, 127 plate appearances with a 354 on base. Incredibly playable in the outfield, one of their more expensive bats now. Wyatt Langford at 39 on DraftKings, 33 on FanDuel, differently priced. 13 home runs, 11 steals, and 99 WRC plus. A lot more to give quality-wise than that. 12.5% barrels, 46.9% hard hits. Jonah Heim's a mix and match quality catcher with upside for more. Jake Berger's downright interesting at first base, given the 13.4% barrels, 48.9% hard hits. The history he's had of hitting 30-something home runs just last year. 29. Damn it. 29 last year, 34 the year before. He's got tons of power in that bat. We could get to 25 maybe with a good second half, and he's been making that kind of contact, just not seeing the results for it. And then Higgy's not really hitting the ball like he did last year, mix and match quality catcher at the bottom spot. If you're going to Angels with that sub-4 total, but one of the better lower-owned teams, somewhat believable for upside, but again, I'm much, much more on the Eovaldi side of this. 5,000, 3,000 for Neto works, 13 home runs, 15 steals, 118 WRC plus. Shanuel gets on base like crazy, 354 on base. Continue to think they ought to flip those guys. Like I said yesterday, he's cheap, 37 on DraftKings. 3,000 is probably the extent of what I want to pay for Nolan Shanuel on FanDuel, and he kind of mixes out given the 4-man limitation, but sometimes it does pay to mix in a guy like that because it can't all be about the power bats. Mike Trout at 48, at 31 on FanDuel. Yes, please. 14 home runs, a 211 ISO, 120 WRC plus on the season. Taylor Ward has 20 home runs. Joe Adell's up to 19, 249 ISO for both those players. Adell's beating him out with a 127 WRC plus versus the 112. And Joe Adell's got a 401 xWOBA under the surface. Ridiculous season from Joe Adell so far. Jorge Soler, 10.5% barrels is the thing we cling to with Soler. Everything else has been atrocious compared to seasons past. 3,000, 2,600. With good memories in mind, I'll play some Jorge Soler if I'm going to the Angels. Logan O'Hoppe at 36.28 has 17 home runs. I don't really get why he's so cheap on DraftKings. Where you need the position, you should probably price up the better catchers on the board. 205 ISO. He's not consistent or reliable, really, but monster numbers in play. Luis Arenifo and Chad Stevens mix and match at the bottom of the lineup. Evaldi, Soriano, Rangers, Angels. Probably a little bit lighter than a four corners game. I lean the pitching a little bit more than that. But both these offenses somewhat in play or playable anyway. Both of these lineups are in. Ketel Marte in the lineup again. He was in the confirmed lineup initially yesterday and then out of it. We had another weird scratcher change yesterday. I forget what it was. I try and stay on top of those. But baseball-wise, a lot of things just lock and stay locked. It's not quite the late swapping attention that, say, basketball demands after lock. But I do try and stay on top of those changes. We got both of them in last night ahead of the swapping deadline. Hopefully none of that comes down today. Diamondbacks, very good pitcher on the mound in Nick Pivetta. He's got a 3.25 ERA, a 3.46 xFIP, 27.8% strikeout, 6.2% walks, nearly an 11% swinging strike rate. But like I mentioned way back in the beginning of the show, three guys in the Diamondbacks lineup in the mid above the, I lost the thread there, 15, 14, and 14 in the home run model. 10 plus is the magic number. I was trying to say mid-teens, somewhere along the way there. Just kind of in the middle of the already high quality spots of power upside. What I question is the sequencing. Do they get Nick Pivetta for ongoing quality, cycle some innings and come through with multiple big home runs? Or is it just power that's showing individually for three very good home run hitters, but not a big day? The Vegas total at 356 suggests that it's the latter. Maybe we get Pivetta for a homer. Maybe it's 2-3 runs, but it's probably not the big slate bending 8 to 10 run type day, considering Pivetta's quality. That said, if anybody's going to do that to a pitcher like Pivetta, these Diamondbacks are very, very high up on that list. So I think it's a both-sided situation. Not for I want to have him that much sense, but just like gun to my head, which side of this do I lean toward? I would say I lean toward the Pivetta side of it. But at 98, at 99, with all those other options available, I am in no way interested in tackling the Diamondbacks here with that power showing. So really limited shares overall, I think, of Pivetta here. Loosely playable, as much as the Diamondbacks are. Slight lean in his direction. Takes the Diamondbacks down a notch. No issues if you want to take some shots with Carol Marte and Eugenio Suarez as a three-man. Obviously, they're showing a lot of quality. Those are three of the best bats in DFS, full stop. 20 home runs for Carroll, 19 for Ketel Marte. Suarez leading the team at 28, one of the top home run hitters in baseball this year. Araldo Perdomo and Josh Naylor are two excellent bats for very affordable prices at 43 apiece on DraftKings, 33 and 34 on FanDuel. Naylor went deep again last night. He's got 11 homers, 11 steals, tremendous slash line. Perdomo is a great table setter and interesting enough in the 3 spot. If those guys ahead of him are just getting on base, he can knock them in for sure. Stay on the double, continue cycling. So I like the upside in the top 5. Lourdes Gurriel's very playable for 38.29. Dozen home runs on the season, a 103 WRC plus. Stable, consistent bat. Has a little bit more to give in terms of the hit tool, the on-base skills. We'll see where the power goes. Just giving us medium contact so far this year, but he's very affordable for the numbers. Jake McCarthy, Alec Thomas, and Jose Herrera at the bottom of the lineup are mix and match quality. You get a little bit of limited production, but everybody's sub 300 on base. Very disappointing in the WRC plus department. That's where I get concerned about sequencing, about cycling this lineup, turning the lineup over. If that's a free inning for Nick Pivetta, it gets a little bit difficult to see the upside for the Diamondbacks. I think that's where we hit that 3.5 total. On the Padres side, they're facing Merrill Kelly. 86,900 for Kelly again. Comes in like we talked about last time out. He disappointed us, but the numbers are still very real for Kelly. Over 18 starts, 104 innings, as disappointing as he might have been last time. 3.55 ERA, 3.49 xFIP, but 24.5% strikeout against a sub 7% walk rate, an 11.3% swinging. He's given up a lot of premium contact. That could burn him here against a hard-hitting Pods team. But there's quality there. 86,900. It's just that he's not all that cheap for this deep slate. So I don't know how much we actually get to him, but it wouldn't be crazy to go to a few shares. Pods are challenging because they're low strikeout. There are, again, some guys who hit the ball very hard in this lineup, like Fernando Tatis in the leadoff role, 4,000, 15 homers, 19 steals. A quiet slash line for him, but a lot of quality there. 386 xWOBA, 126 WRC plus, all these premium contact events. Luis Arias, table setter, 292, 327, 401. He's fine, but not all that appealing at first base. 27 at second base works a lot better. Manny Machado at 5,036, 15 homers on the year, a 191 ISO, 136 WRC plus. Tremendous option at third, even against Kelly. Gavin Sheets, cheap at 37, 3,000. He's hit 13 home runs, just a 184 ISO, but a 350 xWOBA continues to be interesting. 9.4% barrels and 51.5% hard hits is also interesting. Jackson Merrill, 11% barrels. Mixed bag of a season, over 250 plate appearances, in and out of the lineup a little bit with a couple injuries. 5 home runs. 356 xWOBA explains away a 137 ISO. Should be a lot better than he's been overall. And we saw the quality just last year. 108 WRC plus in spite of some scuffling. Xander Bogaerts. He's been weird to explain all year. He's getting on at a 331 clip now. He's stolen 13 bags. 98 WRC plus is a little underwhelming for the quality at which he's getting on base. 16.9% strikeouts, 10.5% walks, but limited power output with just 5 home runs. Has been a weird year. He's been dealing with a couple lingering injuries that cause him pain when he swings baseball bats, which is problematic. 36-29, though, in the middle infield, not problematic to play. Jake Cronenworth, Trenton Brooks, and Elias Diaz down lineup. Mix and match pieces all. A little bit of quality out of Cronenworth from time to time. He gets on base at an aggressively good clip at 360 this year, 124 WRC plus, 8 home runs and 250 chances. He's easily the most playable guy down there. Pitching. Nick Pivetta, Merrill Kelly, Padres bats, Diamondbacks bats. Odd little 4-corner spot, though. Would play a few shares of D-backs. Phils and Giants lineups are not in yet. We're not going to talk too much about Taijuan Walker outside of the fact that he's just a target here. 3.64 ERA, a 4.37 xFIP going up against a Giants team that should be able to get to him. The hell is he? We're going to get probably 3 to 4 innings of Taijuan here, I would suspect. Mostly pitching in bulk relief since the start of June. Prior to that, it was just an inning of relief, and then 2 innings against Atlanta, 2 2/3 last time out. Faced 9 hitters in each game. 1 strikeout in each game, a walk, 2 walks. Just a gettable pitcher here. I like the Giants upside. I like the Giants bats with a 4.65 implied total. 62, 7,000. Not cheap enough to think about for 3-4 innings, even with some strikeouts on deck. Don't really like it. Robbie Ray, on the other hand, 10.5, 10.3. Tremendous option on this slate. Facing a Phillies lineup that does have some strikeout available. There's a couple of those strikeout guys, but everybody else into the 20s, even their top end hitters. Kyle Schwarber, as good as he is, 26% strikeout rate. Ray, not at all reliable, allows a ton of premium contact, a ton of power. You can see it visible on the 18.18 for Kyle Schwarber. I think that's the slate leading home run mark. Bryce Harper above the magic number at 11.08. Trey Turner at 9.2. Ray has managed to keep hitters to just a 2.78% home run rate, but as mentioned, has given up home runs in a stretch of games recently. 43.6% hard hits, 91.1 miles an hour of exit velo, both way over our threshold on a 15.8 degree average launch. That'll do that to you. That should be a lot higher and will be if he continues like this. Last year, 4.65 in a small sample. Year before, didn't really pitch. 4.13 in a full sample when he was good back in 2022, and similarly high numbers throughout. Also walks too many guys, gives up too many opportunities overall. 9% walk defies that 1.09 whip that he's put up. He's been lucky keeping guys off base throughout the season. Part of that is the tremendous stuff. 13.5% swinging strike rate is not nothing. That helps with keeping guys off base and with limiting home runs. 27.1% Ks overall. He's very, very good and capable of being the top pitcher on this slate for sure, but there's also very, very visible downside. I would play some low-owned Philly stacks. If we're hunting for high-quality lineups, look no further than the Philadelphia Phillies against Robbie Ray. 394 implied total tells you a little bit of that story. Pitcher-friendly park doesn't exactly help going to the Phillies, but there's enough power showing up at the top. You're paying basically full price, maybe a little bit less than full for everybody on DraftKings. Same deal on FanDuel for the top three. But then you get cheap around Alec Boehm, around Nicky Castellanos on both sites. Both very playable hitters in the 270 range, medium power output from both guys, 98 and 106 WRC plus respectively. Between the two, I tend to lean Alec Boehm. I think he's the better overall hitter, but Castellanos gives you a slight edge in power. So it depends on what we're looking for there. But either guy, very, very playable. Fill out a 5-man with those two. You could also dip down to JT Realmuto to fill out the 5-man. Otto Kemp, Edmundo Sosa, Johan Rojas, if this is the lineup we get. There's quality in Edmundo Sosa at the bottom of the lineup, probably the most appealing guy as a wraparound option. Just 3 home runs, but a 110 WRC plus, a decent enough on base, a little bit of hit tool there. If you get Brandon Marsh, which you probably won't against the high-end strikeout lefty, but if he happens to be down there, I still think he's interesting given some on-base skills as a wraparound guy. And then hopefully you get into a bullpen situation earlier than later. Otto Kemp, Johan Rojas, more mix and matchy, I think, than Edmundo Sosa. Sosa gives you a little bit more. At the top, Trey Turner's a fantastic shortstop, 299, 350, 448 with 11 home runs and double that many steals, 122 WRC plus. Schwarbs has 27 home runs, gets on base at a ridiculous 382 clip, creates runs at a 53% better than average pace. You just play Kyle Schwarber, 419 ex-WOBA. And Bryce Harper, 375 ex-WOBA. A little bit limited for the overall output this year. Still putting good wood on the ball. Still a lot of Bryce Harper under the surface there. Another guy would expect big things second half from Harper. On the Giants side, going up against Taiwan, Mike Yastrzemski's interesting, 4,027, especially if he's leading off. A little bit of power there. Good ability to put bat on ball. Good walk rate, 336 on base. Table setter or a guy who can clear the bases for you. He's interesting from the leadoff spot. He's equally interesting if he's going, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in that range. Elliot Ramos at 43.35, differently priced across sites. Pretty cheap on DraftKings for a guy with 14 home runs coming off of a tremendous first season last year. 343 ex-WOBA, 124 WRC plus, barreling the ball in 11.3% of his batted ball events. Rafi Devers with a 15% barrel rate, kind of scuffling since joining the Giants overall, but tremendous upside. One of the best examples of why you don't really sweat recent performance with guys that you just know are good. 37-31 for Matty Chapman. Second game back off the IL. Had a dozen home runs in 286 plate appearances when he came back. 9.8% barrels, 51.1% hard hits. A ridiculous swing. Matt Chapman, if you don't remember, he's a member of that swing speed island that we've talked about a bunch of times this season. Ridiculous swing speed, fast swing rate. Last year, I haven't looked at this year's numbers so far, but the output would suggest it's pretty similar. 202 ISO, 134 WRC plus. Don't sleep on a very cheap Matt Chapman at third base against Taiwan Walker. That's an interesting bat. 8.60 in the home run model. Jung-Hoo Lee, 38.29. Mix and match quality so far this season, a 99 WRC plus. Kind of disappointing output over a half a season. We'll see what he's got to offer in the second half. Doesn't really hit the ball effectively hard, but is very low strikeout, medium walk. So you get a lot of contact out of him. Willie Adames has gotten a lot more interesting. Up to 11 home runs, 227, 315, 373, 96 WRC plus. Coming around with his premium contact as well. That was in danger of slipping below 10% just a couple weeks ago. We're back to very respectable premium contact numbers with Willie, and that's going to drive everything over what, again, another guy. Big second half coming. Dom Smith, Patty Bailey, Casey Schmidt, very, very skippable down lineup. Mix and match quality plays to your heart's content if you're building a lot of Giant stacks. Giants looking very playable. I'd say Giants bats, Robbie Ray, but it's really probably Robbie Ray over the Giants bats. And then Phillies bats very much in the mix. So Giants, Robbie Ray, Phillies all very closely packed, and no Taiwan for me. And that brings us to the end of the show, the end of the slate. It is 6:06. We're going to get through this. I do not want to play either one of these pitchers, even though they're cheap. You do have a 19% strikeout rate on Jeffrey Springs, which is not nothing. He's pitched to a 4.07 ERA, a 4.72 xFIP, though. Too many walks, too much whip, too many guys on base, a lot of barrels on a fly ball trajectory in this minor league park is going to play poorly for him, given the Braves' power upside. Everything I just said about Jeffrey Springs goes triple for Dieter Fuentes. As mentioned, kid's got a really good fastball, potentially elite stuff. You can see a 110 rating by Stuff Plus in his 3 atrocious starts. The pitches, the physics of how the ball travels through space and time are very real and very good for this 20-year-old pitcher. That's why I took him in the minor league draft in the Dynasty League. I am intrigued, but not today, not with essentially everyone in the A's lineup at or near the magic number. No thanks. Bats in this game in a big, big way. I am over the top about this game. I think this is going to get really popular. Several sites seem to disagree in their ownership projections. If that's the case, even more to the point, bombs away with this game. Love it. Game stack it. Take both sides of it aggressively. There's a lot to like here. Ronnie Acuna, 63-42, 331, 455, 61 start to his season over 169 chances. Just coming back with a big remember me statement and going to continue on. He is just this good. Matty Olson, another player making his debut for the Dynasty team. Couldn't ask for a better spot for his first game. 10.70 in the home run model today. He's at 17, primed for a huge second half, coming off at 17.1% barrel, 55.1% hard hit. Austin Riley, longtime member of the Dynasty team. Disappointing year overall for him at 273, 324, 433, but still creating runs 10% better than average. Still has a 343 xWOBA. 13 home runs is off pace, but not bad, and still 14.7% barrels, 50.4% hard hits. Another player could just catch an upswing in the second half. Marcelo Ozuna is just way too cheap. I know he's been bad. I know the lingering injuries, et cetera, et cetera. 114 WRC plus, still getting on base at a 367 clip overall this year. Still carrying good contact numbers from early in the season. 11 home runs. You just continue going to Marcelo Ozuna and catch him early for the day that he comes back fully healthy. Jurickson Profar at 3,000. Served his time. 37 okay plate appearances, does have 2 home runs on the board. He is begrudgingly playable, but probably still my least favorite bat in this lineup outside of Nick Allen. Sean Murphy at 35-31 has 13 home runs. Tremendous catcher bat. If you get Drake Baldwin, which you won't against the lefty, so much just as good. Either way, with those two catchers, they're both tremendous home run hitters. 14.8% barrels out of Sean Murphy this year. 3,500 where you have to play the position. That's a ridiculously good option. Ozzie Albies and Michael Harris next to each other at the bottom of the lineup. Couple of talented underperformers over the last season plus if we're counting last year for Albies. 291, 294 xWOB is not a lot of encouraging things outside of just remembering some of the past. These are two players that it would be fair to say, all right, over nearly 400 plate appearances, 350 for Harris, and some downside last year, we can say there's some concern and real concern going on. Both those guys have slipped significantly in very clear numbers, like their contact metrics, right? So there's a lot to dislike about these guys with their recent performance because it's been ongoing recent performance over almost a full season. And Nick Allen's here for defense. Larry Butler off the top for the A's, 4,400, 3,100. Monster upside for DFS performances on any given slate. Tremendous option. We got the A's just now. Tremendous option on any given slate for output on a day where we want to get to A's aggressively. He's a big part of the plans. Lefty bat to throw at the struggling rookie. Again, Dieter Fuentes is good, but he's here way too early. He's just underdeveloped. So even if he's comes out with the best version of his stuff today, he just doesn't know where to put it. These guys are going to club him to death. 11.6% barrels, 53.5% hard hits, and 93.4 miles an hour of exit velo so far. A 5+% home run rate for the kid. Butler, Rooker, Langoliers in the lineup. Soderstrom, all above the magic number. Zach Geloff back in the lineup, just below the magic number. Don't sleep on Zach Geloff for 33 at second base, for 24 at second base. He's an asset down there. Interesting lineup. And then I skipped over the home run pick of the day, Mr. Nick Kurtz in the middle of the lineup, 4,800, 3,200. Arguably now their best home run hitter. 16.55 has him at the top spot in the model from this team. Home run pick of the day, he's at 16.1% barrels, 47.5% hard hits, up to 13 home runs in just 209 plate appearances, in danger of passing Brent Rooker for the team lead eventually. Rooker's at 18. He's a tremendous option today. 400 plate appearances of high quality out of Rooker, 130 WRC plus. The power has maybe dipped a little bit in terms of the rate at which he's hitting home runs, but everything about the quality of his plate appearances is improved again year over year. Super interesting bat. 52.33, not expensive enough. Jacob Wilson at 47, 3,000, one of the top hit tools, one of the top table setters in baseball, and he goes into all this power. Love that option at those prices at shortstop. Just a tremendous top six. And then you get the other Max Muncy. You get this Max Muncy for 3,000 for 2,600, multi-position eligible on FanDuel. Coming in with a 9% barrel, 7 home runs in 179 chances. Respectable as far as premium contact and a little bit of sneaky power output goes, but has no consistency whatsoever. 31.8% strikeouts, 5% walks, 216, 263, 383, and a 75 WRC plus. Zach Geloff, again, really interesting. Last year in 547 plate appearances, hit 17 home runs, a 151 ISO. Year before that, in just 300 chances, had 14 stolen bases and 14 home runs with a 237 ISO and a 133 WRC plus. Put those 2 years together, and that's a very interesting bat. Has missed most of this season, but back and very cheap and forgotten down toward the bottom of the lineup. Could be a really interesting differentiation piece in what I think is going to be a popular A's team. And then Denzel down the bottom spot, just 207, 258, 336, 3 home runs, but one of them was one of the longest home run hits in the year this year. Home runs hit in the league this year. He's interesting. He's not good right now. He hasn't even been playing baseball for that long. I took him in the dynasty draft. I think he's a real interesting wild card with an everyday job playing ridiculous defense out in center field. And that's a bet that I think could come around. I think he's got a little stolen base upside. He swiped 5 bags in 126 plate appearances despite just a 258 on base. Not a key spot, not a critical guy, not somebody who draws you to this team, but as a guy that nobody's going to play going up against Dieter Fuentes to differentiate a lineup, to cheapen up a lineup in a mid-board expensive type team. He's not out of play. Definitely interesting down there. This went back and forth. One of these teams was first. One of these teams was second, depending on which site you're on. If you want access to which one goes in which spot, sign up over at rotoscouts for under $1 a day. Gets you access to every single projection on the board, every home run model number on the board, all the pitching projections, top stacks rankings of the day, power index, anything else that hits that website as we go forward. NFL right around the corner. You have access to all of it for that price. No per sport nonsense. With that in mind, I got to punch out. It's 6:15. We've gotten through 13 games, gang. 2 hours and change. I wanted to shorten it up. I talked as fast as I possibly could, but there's a lot to go through. 30 is still here hanging out. I know there were more here in and out. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Really appreciate all you guys. I'm going to have the site updated in about 15. That would be way too long. I'm going to have the site updated in about 5 minutes, if that long. So just give me a sec and you'll have fully updated projections. Good luck out there tonight. I'm going to forgo the second pitching breakdown, go back to the beginning of the show. It'll be the same content. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do at rotoscouts on Twitter or in our free Discord, which is linked down there. And we will see you for more of this tomorrow, gang. Wednesday slate. We'll see what it looks like. Later.